Bailiff Cassandra Britt is standing in for bailiff Kevin Roscoe, and law clerk Alexi Mincer is sitting in for law clerk Sarah Rose. Honesty Butler is suing her former friend, Walteria Flowers, for the cost of a car and stolen property.
Court come to order. All rise. Have a seat, please. Good morning, Judge. Case 3074, Butlers versus Flowers. Thank you. Miss Butler, how long have you and Miss Flowers been friends?
We became friends around the summer of 2022.
How?
We both lived in South Carolina, and then we both moved to Jacksonville, so it's kind of like we were just friends.
Did you see each other often before you decided that you wanted to buy her car?
Yes, ma'am. She used to come and pick me up all the time, and then I used to see her around the town that we lived in before we moved back to Jacksonville.
You didn't have a car?
No, ma'am.
Did you have a driver's license?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you ever have a car?
Yes, ma'am.
What happened to it?
I wrecked it.
You broke it?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you do that?
It was my fault. It was a failure to yield.
Oh, so there was a crash?
Yes, ma'am.
That was your fault?
Yes, ma'am.
On what day did you have a conversation with Miss Flowers about purchasing her car?
It was December 12th.
Of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of car was it?
It's a 2010 Chevy Malibu.
When did you purchase it?
It was 2021, March 2021.
And why were you getting rid of it?
Because I had another car and I was getting another car too, so.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid $8,000.
Lexi, would you look up a 2010 Chevy Malibu?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, two-door, four-door, I don't even know how many doors.
Four-door.
How many miles did it have on it when you purchased it?
It was 130.
Now, interesting, because a year later, you agreed to sell the defendant that same car for how much?
I agreed to sell it to her for $4,500, but I was selling it as is.
Just a second.
Okay.
Go back. We're going to get to as is in a second.
Okay.
That's not the final price you agreed on with her based upon these records.
No, ma'am.
What was the final price you agreed?
It was $4,000.
Is that right?
No, ma'am.
It was $3,500.
Yes, ma'am.
So the ultimate price that you agreed to sell the car for was $3,500.
No, ma'am. It was $4,000.
Show me. Show me 35.
Yes, ma'am.
Private party, fair condition, between $6,000 to $7,800 for fair
6,000 to 78.
6,000 to 7,800.
Thank you. Okay, well, it was $4,000, but because of things wrong with the car, you said I'll take off $500 from the original price because there were more things wrong with the car than she originally thought. Is that what happened?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, it sounds to me, even at $4,000, you got a pretty good deal.
Yes, ma'am.
Because of what Lexi has told me about the current value of the car, which is the low end, $6,000, and at $3,500, even I would buy that car. It was a great value. This is what your case is about. It is your claim that you made all but $100 worth of the payments.
Yes, ma'am.
On the car, and then the defendant, unbeknownst to you, came to your house at night and repossessed the car.
Yes, ma'am.
You say you only owed her $100.
Yes, ma'am.
Defendant says you owed her $7,000, but I think she's relying on the $4,000 figure. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's where the discrepancy is, and you took the car back.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Part of that had to do with, I gather, the two of you having an argument.
Yes, ma'am.
We fought.
Two of you having an argument. I'll get to that in a second. So you have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
You want the money back that you put into the car.
Well, not actually what I paid for the car, and also the belongings that was in the car.
Okay, let's get rid of the belongings. She did have some stuff in the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have it with you?
Yes, ma'am. I have some of it with me, like her debit card and her purse that she had in there.
Okay, and what about the iPad?
She never had an iPad in there.
Okay.
I took a picture of everything.
Okay, Cassandra, would you go over there, please? Take all of that stuff and move it over to the other table. Those cards belong to her?
Oh, this one's my ID.
Okay. So now you want back what you paid for the car.
Yes, ma'am.
The defendant says you didn't finish paying for it. She had every right to repossess it. Let's take care of the car first.
Yes, ma'am.
How long did you drive the car?
From December of 2022 to May of 2023.
The beginning of December?
No, ma'am.
Around the middle, like,
All right,
my
so-
first payment was on the 12th.
Okay. When did you repossess the car?
I got it June 4th.
So let's make it January, February, March, April, May. So you had the car 5 months.
Yes, ma'am.
And you have the car now.
Yes, ma'am.
So she owed you really $100 when you took it back. Who paid the insurance on this car?
Everything was still in her name.
So she paid for the insurance. Is that right? Did you have insurance on the car or not?
No, ma'am.
No. Let me understand this. She's driving around with a car that's in your name that doesn't have insurance on it.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is the car now?
It's parked in my yard.
Where's the title to it?
I have it.
I'd like to see it. And you repossessed the car just a few months ago, is that right?
No, ma'am. June
June.
4th. Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's a couple of months ago.
Oh, okay.
Great. Where's the back of this title?
I just sent it as evidence. I don't have the title with me, but that's the title. It's in my name.
Have her sign this. You're signing over the title to the car for her. Sign it over. I'll notify. Sign it over to her. We're going to give you the $100 that she owes you. Sign it over to her. You do understand, Miss Flowers, you came here to court today from where?
Jacksonville, Florida.
And you want to get home, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you've got an appearance fee for coming here?
Yes, ma'am.
Right, all that's being withheld until you sign the title over to her. Do you understand?
Okay.
Great. Okay. So now you're going to have 5 days to get your car.
Your Honor.
And I'm awarding her on her counterclaim. You got your property back. I'm awarding her on her counterclaim. So far, $100, because that's what you owed her on the car. And it was done a few weeks ago. The car is there. Within 5 days, with a marshal, go and pick up your car. Do you understand? Okay. Within 5 days of today's date, she's coming to pick up the car with a marshal. Don't do anything to the car because you're not getting any cash until she has the car.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Perfect.
Honesty Butler claims her former friend, Walteria Flowers, owes for the cost of a car and stolen property. Walteria is countersuing for the balance of the car and an assault.
Now, let's get to your counterclaim. I've already given you the remainder owed on the car, which is $100. But now your counterclaim is about an assault. Tell me when this assault took place.
It took place on June 3rd.
And what date did you retrieve the car, just from my memory?
It was June 4th. Well, it was like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so it was right after this fight.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So why don't you tell me what happened?
Me and her, after, we got into the little argument about the car, I blocked her on everything and I just told her what she owed me. So she proceeds to threaten me, saying she would be at my house in my car, her and her cousin. So me and my...
Can I see what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Did she tell this to you on the phone or in texts?
In text, miss.
I'd like to see the text.
I have a voice recording of her saying it.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to see that. It's even better. Though I'm deaf, it's even better. Now, is this argument, by the way, while you're looking for it, this argument was about the balance due on the car?
Yes, ma'am. It was something before that, but then it led to the car. I guess it's the service in here. It's having trouble.
You don't have service?
If you don't have service on the phone so I can hear it, I'll look at the texts.
Okay. Right here. Okay, yeah, that's...
Thank you. Okay, so what? Before I read these, I gather from the plaintiff there was an incident that preceded June the 3rd.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and tell me on what date that incident was.
Okay, June 3rd, we got into this.
Well, I know what happened on June 3rd, but that was about the car.
Oh, no, ma'am. It was earlier that day that we was talking about whatever happened.
Okay, well, why don't you tell me about that?
Okay, so it was something going around on social media about people being behind a fake page or whatever. So I was exposed on a fake page. She was exposed
On a fake...
a fake Snapchat or something. It was something like people saying bad stuff about people on the Snapchat. So
You understand that?
No.
okay, so it was someone
I
made.
thought it was a younger thing, and I just didn't understand it. So That's
Okay, someone.
explain it to him.
Okay, someone made, Snapchat, right? Okay, someone made a Snapchat that nobody knows, like, who it belongs to. They posted pictures of me on there saying, bad stuff about me. They posted something about her also, and about my baby's father and, other people. So, Honesty texts one of the girls that they thought it was behind it and told them that it was me. By me and her still being friends, I was lost, like, why would you text someone that's not even friends with you saying that it was me? So she said, and I have it in the text message, in the evidence, she says that, and if I did say that, what? Y'all shouldn't be behind fake pages anyways. Y'all too grown for that. Keep me out of that. So I said, to solve all that, just pay me the money you owe me. To make it fair, just pay the money you owe me for the car, and I sign over the title, and we have nothing else to talk about. Then I blocked her. So then she gets on Instagram and texts me and made a voice message about, oh, I don't owe you such and such. I'll be at your house when I get off in your car or whatever to fight. So me and my friends was at this park called Lonnie C. And Honesty came out there and went live, was on Facebook Live, and I have the video, and was saying all kind of stuff on the live about me towards me. And that's when she came up to fight me, like at the park.
Your Honor, that is not true.
Yes.
Okay.
I have the evidence.
Did you?
Yes. Rumors were being spread, but
On the internet.
on the internet, no one knows the source of the rumors. And then there were some allegations that maybe it was the defendant who was the source of the rumors,
Right.
says not true, escalated, and then started live streaming a fight.
Right. She get.
Whew. Okay. You have the live stream?
Okay.
Okay. So we just hit the play.
Yeah. On both of them.
Oh my God.
You can hit that play button right there.
Lie, you a lying. I got all the messages, and don't play with me about no $700, because bitch, I will be at your house when I get off work. Hold on, play with me. I don't owe you no $700, and you know I don't. You better find somebody to play with, bitch.
Works and plays well with others. Isn't that a check-off sign someplace? Okay, tell me what happened when you met with each other.
I was at the park already, me and my friends, the witness.
What were you doing at a park? How old are you?
I'm 21.
What do you do for a living?
I'm in nursing school.
How old are your children?
8 months and 2 years old.
Who do you live with?
It's me and my boyfriend. We got a house.
Boyfriend, the father of these two children?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were at the park with your friend with your children?
Oh, no, ma'am. It's just me, my friend, and my other friends. They always have stuff at the park, so.
Where were your children?
Well, one was in South Carolina, and the other one was with her grandmother,
Which one was in South Carolina?
my 2-year-old.
Who was in South Carolina?
I'm from South Carolina, so my family is there.
Who was the baby with?
Oh, her godmother.
Why?
Because we just sent her down there occasionally to be with her godparents.
Okay. So you were at the park. You went to the park.
No, ma'am, that is not true. I was with my friends and my cousin, and they had a graduation party. My friends was there. We went there after work. We was at the park first, which I can pull up the video and show you we was at the park first. They came to the park afterwards. I did not hit her first. She walked up to me because in the video, you're going to hear my friend saying, friend, turn around, turn around. She hit me, and I don't understand how it's assault because as they're breaking up the fight, none of the people I was with
May I
broke up the
see your
fight.
video
Yes,
where
ma'am.
she hit you first? I'd like to see that.
Okay.
Misty Butler has accused her former friend, Walteria Flowers, of taking her car without permission. Walteria is countersuing, claiming Honesty assaulted her after taking the car back.
She's going to show me a video, Miss Flowers.
Yes, ma'am.
And her video, according to her, let me just get this straight, is going to show you hitting her first.
No, ma'am, it's not.
It's not. I'm sorry. It's not going to show her hitting me first, but it's going to show me walking, and my friend is going to be saying, turn around, turn around. When I turned around and basically I dropped my phone, she hit me, and that's when we went to fight.
But that's not going to be on the video.
You're kind of going to see it a little bit.
All right, I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
A little bit is better than nothing, usually. You have also things that you want me to see on your phone?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you get them up, please, so I...
Oh, it's up.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
ma'am, I can.
Thank you.
I have the fight right here. This sound is right there. I already turned it. The only thing you have to play is the play button.
Okay, while she's looking for us, I'm going to take a look at this.
and hit her.
Who's the one on the ground?
I'm on the bottom. She's on top of me.
It's terrible. I don't understand it when women fight. It's just so... I mean, I can't understand when men fight either, but you sort of expect it of them. But I never understand how women can do physical contact with other women in anger. Can't understand it, not in anger either. All right, let me see what she's got.
We gotta do it like this, and then we get there.
Mace or anything. You got something, wow? You got something? All right. Bitch, she better come right here and let this house leave me. Oh my God. Give me the phone. Wait. All right, bitch, be coming right here. What?
It looked to me like there were times in that video when she was on top and times when you were on top.
I never got on top. She kicked me in the face and all while I was down. I would never got on top.
Just said, were you wearing the red pants?
Pajamas, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you were wearing the red pants, right. I'll take a look at your pictures. It seemed as if somebody else who was in that mob, and it was very hard to tell, was kicking somebody.
Your Honor, that was me. I kicked her. We were fighting, and her witness is she jumped in the fight and she actually hit me in the head.
Love a person who tells the truth all the time. Right? Thank you. No. Okay. Ladies shouldn't fight. You shouldn't be in the same place together if you're not getting along together. You don't go to the park together. But this was a fight. Looked to me from that video is that you were both willing participants in that altercation. So I'm dismissing your counterclaim, with the exception of the $100 that she owes you for the balance of the car. So in this case, the car is transferred permanently to the plaintiff with her payment of $100. Your counterclaim for assault is dismissed. You have 2 children. Do you have kids?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, don't fight. It's not ladylike. All right, we're done. We're done. Court is adjourned.
It was not a bad car. It is now because I don't know what she did to it, but it's not a bad car. But I'm just glad she got it back out my hands.
I took good care of the vehicle. I got it fixed multiple times, spent almost $2,700 into getting the car fixed.
It's just messed up, like drivable and everything.
She told me that she reported it stolen since it was in her name, but she actually kept a spare key. And she came into my yard at like 3 a.m., I believe she said, and she just drove off with it while I was asleep.
I guess because she's immature, and some people just do immature things.
We're no longer friends.
I think what we saw in there was 2 women square up, get into a fight. Obviously, no one wants to see it, a terrible result, but you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, and the court is not going to step in and figure out what happened here.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. People generally shouldn't fight. I always find it unnerving when I see women who are supposed to be triple process thinkers, all women, but especially somebody with 2 young kids. Take yourself out of harm's way. Don't put yourself in harm's way. But if you do, don't ask, you're right, don't ask to deal with the simple ones first. Miss Thornton,
yes, ma'am.
You have a music company.
Somewhat.
Tell me what exactly you do.
I'm a disabled veteran. With my husband, we have a trucking company, and I also breed dogs.
What do you have to do with music?
I had something to do with music.
Because that's how you connected with the defendant.
You know, I initially connected with him. He was dancing. He does exotic dancing, and I went to a show.
So you were a spectator?
Yes.
And?
He led me on to that he did massages and he did different things, and he also made it known that he was trying to do music.
Was the show at a club or somebody's house?
It was a rented space.
And that's the first time you saw the defendant?
Correct.
Have you seen him again in that same kind of setting as an exotic dancer?
once after the following year in 2022, he invited me or asked me to come out and basically help him if he needed something, and he did need help that evening.
In between November of 2021 and what month in 2022?
That was March.
And March of 2022, had you built up a relationship with him?
Yes, ma'am.
And did there come a time between 21 and 22 that you had some sort of a music studio?
Yes.
Now, that's what I read in the papers. And what was the music studio for?
Artists to record.
Your Honor.
Did you...
Okay.
Did you rent it?
No, it was in my establishment.
What establishment?
It was an apartment that I rented out. It had 2 bedrooms. One of the rooms was a music studio, and it was for the use
it was
of...
an apartment that you rented?
Yes.
Where?
In Buckhead, Georgia.
When had you rented the apartment?
I rented the apartment in February of 2022.
In whose name?
My name.
Personal?
Yes, ma'am.
Not in a company?
No.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out what you rented a 2-bedroom apartment for. You were married, you have kids.
Correct.
Were you living with your husband?
Yes, well, we was estranged. We was separated.
Okay, so you were separated. Mm-hmm. And what month and year did you and your husband separate?
In, I guess, January.
January of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
It's like pulling teeth. And then you rented the 2-bedroom apartment. Did you ever live in the 2-bedroom apartment yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
So you lived in one of the bedrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
From when to when did you live in one of the bedrooms?
Up until June.
And then where did you go?
Back home.
You went back to your husband?
Yes.
Mr. Alford, did he live in that apartment?
He moved in February. He was homeless.
Just a second. So he moved in February. That's the answer.
Yes.
It's a 2-bedroom apartment. One of the rooms you said was a music studio.
Yes.
Was that one of the bedrooms?
Yes.
Did you and Mr. Alford stay in the same bedroom?
No.
That's a yes or a no. Let's just move on with it. Did you and Mr. Alford, when he moved in February, live in the same bedroom?
No.
Did he stay occasionally in the same bedroom?
Occasionally.
Yeah, all right. Did he pay any rent?
Never.
There was never an agreement for him to pay rent?
Yes, it was.
When? You're not suing for any rent?
That's because that's...
That's because that? Okay. Well, you're suing for a lot of other things, but You're not suing him for rent?
No.
Okay. And he stayed there until when?
He stayed there under my lease.
Shh. Okay, what did he stay there? You moved out of your home into this apartment in January of 2022. He moved into the apartment in February 2022. You moved out in June of 2022. I want to know when he moved out.
He moved out, I guess, in November when they gave him the eviction notice. But the lease was transferred into his name. He didn't have good enough credit.
Just a second.
So I transferred the lease into his name.
So you moved out in June and he stayed in the apartment?
Correct.
Okay. So far, is what she generally tells me through my questioning correct?
No.
With regard to the apartment?
No, ma'am.
Well, tell me your version, because this has nothing to do with the case, but has something to do with who I'm dealing with. Did you move into a 2-bedroom apartment, the lease of which was in the plaintiff's name?
No. She did help me, however, get the apartment. Her friend was a manager for the apartment complex, so it bypassed all, credit checks, all that. That got me directly.
Mr. Alford, I want you to pay careful attention to what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
In February of 2022, was Miss Thornton also staying in the apartment?
No.
March 2022, was she staying in the apartment?
No.
Did she ever stay in the apartment?
Never stayed in my apartment.
Until what month and year did you live in the apartment?
I lived in an apartment when she first helped me get it, which was in 2022, and I just moved out. I currently...
Just a second. Just moved out?
Yes.
On what date?
Probably, I think it was the end of this year. I'm currently still a leaseholder there. She just texted me and asked me if I wanted to get my stuff out of the apartment.
Who did?
The leasing office.
Are you still there? That's either a yes or a no. Are you still there?
No.
Do you still have any property there?
Yes.
So then you're still there?
Yes.
So then you're still there. If you have property there, you know you're still there. What happened at the eviction hearing?
Is countersuing for the cost of French bulldogs and defamation.
Now, what happened at the eviction hearing?
They're aware of the situation.
Don't tell me what they're aware of. What happened?
Nothing happened. I'm letting them take ownership of the property. I'm giving it back to him.
When?
As soon as this case is over.
Why didn't you give it back to them when they evicted you? Have you been paying rent?
No.
Never.
She stated she pays the rent and I provide the artistry. Like, I do the art. I'm a performer. She pays the rent. That was our agreement. It's in my phone. I got a text message from her phone stating that during 2021 to 2022.
Is what you're saying the lease was in her name and she agreed to pay the rent? Well, then what do you want to show me?
It's in my name, but that's how I was paying the rent. She's giving.
She gave you the money.
Yes, she's giving it from working. I'm the artist.
Never.
Just,
Can I show you the check?
just to say, did you file tax returns in 2022?
No, ma'am.
I'm not asking you a question. Did you file tax returns?
Yes.
Yes. How much did you earn in 2022?
I never got anything back. My kids.
How much did you earn?
My kids get
A ballpark figure.
ballpark, 80,000.
Doing what?
Mel Entertainment, and then also, you know, the singing and stuff.
And now I'm going to move on because I'm getting really bored with this. I'm going to get first to the dogs. While you were in some sort of a relationship, and I know that you had to be in some sort of a relationship because you say so, right?
Yes.
Some sort of a relationship. And I don't know whether he was the cause of you leaving and moving into this or not. It's not particularly relevant. But one of the things, according to both of you, that you decide to do as a side hustle is breed little Frenchy bulldogs. Is that correct?
Correct.
In what month and year did you decide to do this?
He wanted a dog as a pet.
Just a second. Would you give me the answer?
Yes, ma'am. June of 2022.
At about the time that you were going back to your family, to your husband?
Actually, it was April of 2022. I'm sorry.
Okay. And according to you, you purchased 3 French bulldogs.
Yes, that he agreed to care for. Yes.
If you're going to answer my question with some more stuff, that's not going to be helpful to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you purchase them and how much were they?
They were all purchased from individual breeders. The first one was $4,500. The second one was $3,500, and the remaining one was $3,000.
Did you get them within a particular time period? A week, a month?
It got crown, and then like 2 weeks later, got royalty.
And this was starting in April?
I gave the deposit in April. That's why I said it actually started in April. I picked up the dog in June.
And do you have the name of that person?
Yes, I do.
Do you know that person?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Alford, do you know this person? Look at me.
No.
You do not. Are you acknowledging that the first puppy that was bought with a deposit in April?
Yes.
And the deposit was how much?
$500.
And that was to hold the puppy from that litter?
Yes.
And when you picked up the puppy, the remainder of the $4,000 was paid?
Yes.
Let me see proof that it was paid
Yes.
by you.
To go on my phone for Crown because he's not suing for Crown, so I didn't bring Crown's paper.
Is it a fact that you are not requesting the return of this dog, Crown?
No, she paid for him.
Fine. So that's easy. Do you have the paperwork for Crown?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So if you have the paperwork for Crown, that paperwork should be signed over to Miss Thornton, correct? Since you're not suing for the dog, you acknowledge that she paid for the dog. Mm-hmm. Okay. So can I see the paperwork for Crown?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have Crown registered. I don't need that paperwork.
Great. All right. Take that out. Now, the next dog you purchased was
Royalty.
Royalty?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
In June 11th of 2022.
Right before you moved home?
I moved home right after having a miscarriage. He had sent me a derogatory text saying thanks for paying the rent, and he had me distraught, and I got out of there. And that's when I wanted to turn the lease over to him and everything.
Getting it. Slowly. I want to know why you got the second dog at this period of time. You were still together.
Because he said, let's breed. That way I can
Okay, so
pay
you had Crown already. And how much was royalty?
Royalty was $3,500.
Who paid for that dog?
I did.
May I see the proof of that?
Proof.
Yes, right here.
Do you acknowledge, Mr. Alford, that the plaintiff paid for the second dog? And if you do not acknowledge that, show me where you took the money from to pay for the second dog?
It's not a fact.
Okay.
I have letter from the breeder. I have a receipt.
No, I don't want to see letter from the breeder or
And
receipts.
I have the contract.
Listen to me. I don't want to see letter from the breeder. I don't want to see a contract. I want to see where you took out the $3,500 from.
I don't have where I took it out. It was cash deal. It was cash.
I don't care if it was cash. You don't have that much cash. You'd have somebody else paying your rent, sir.
That's not true.
So, just a second. You have somebody else paying your rent. You do not take $3,500 out if you can't pay your own rent to buy a dog. If you did, you have a bank account.
Okay.
And you'll show me where you took $3,500 out.
I no longer have that bank account.
Well, and I no longer believe you. Okay, good. So,
I'll show you my bank account.
shh. All this shows me, by the way, is a $500 deposit on June 11th.
And I have my
I'd like
bank
to
account
see.
because they only accept cash.
Just a second. Let me see where you took the money from.
Yes, ma'am.
You picked the dog up also in June.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. She's going to give you where she took the money from in June, and that would be $3,000 when she picked up the dog, or when she gave the money to the defendant to pick up the dog.
Thank you. Your Honor, where's 7,000 circled? Because I was supposed to get two. I was supposed to get her and her sister. They were both 3,500. But he said that the same dogs had the same bloodline and that wouldn't be.
Did you get two from the same?
No, I got one. And you can see where I gave him on the 15th $1,000.
Okay. Now, he says he has a contract. I don't want to see a letter.
Contract.
All I want to see is a contract that you said you had.
With the receipt? Can I send up the receipt as well?
You can submit a receipt, but a receipt says nothing. A receipt says you picked up the dog.
Amina Thornton has accused her former client, Donnie Alford, of assaulting her and keeping her dog's registration papers. Donnie claims Amina owes him the value of the French bulldogs.
I'd like to see what he has. He says he has a contract. I don't want to see a letter.
Contract.
All I want to see is a contract that you said you had.
With the receipt? Can I send up the receipt as well?
You can submit a receipt, but a receipt says nothing. A receipt says you picked up the dog.
Okay.
She has a contract for the sale of the dog. Canine contract. Now, she has seller's initials and buyer's initials.
And I also have a letter from the person at Breed stating that I was.
Just a second.
Okay.
I don't read letters from your friend. And that's who you said it was, correct?
No.
Just a second. That's who you said it was. Would you read that back to me? It's from a friend of mine. Is that what you said, sir?
There's two people that's listed on the dog agreement.
Never mind.
The woman is not my friend.
He said one of my dance friends.
One of your dance friends. Yeah, thank you. I knew which friend, but one of the dance friends. Okay, this dog's finished. This is royalty. What do you want to show me about royalty?
This is an email asking the breeder if she would give me the papers being that he stole them.
No, I don't care about that.
Okay.
That's not only hearsay, it's not particularly relevant. What's the third dog's name?
Prince.
Who did you buy Prince from and when?
I brought him from Mr. in my town, in my county, on August 16th, I believe.
You had already moved back home.
Yes, ma'am.
To your family.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was, at that time, living in this two-bedroom apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
May I see proof that you paid for Prince?
Yes, ma'am.
While she's looking for that, Mr. Alford, do you have any proof that you paid for Prince?
No, I do not.
Okay. Did Miss Thornton pay for Prince?
She paid partial of the money.
Did you pay any of the money?
Yes.
How much did you pay?
I think I sent over $2,500 for him.
Show me.
I can't. I only have the registration papers.
Well, I don't care about the registration
she
papers.
knows I doesn't have my old phone to pull up the receipts.
Listen,
all I have is what I have.
That doesn't help me, Mr. Alford, at all. The fact
understand.
I got what I got. This is what I got. I don't have that. We're not talking about 10 years ago. We're talking about bank records where you can pull up bank records. You don't need a phone. All you need to do is take your legs and go over to the bank and say, can I have my withdrawals, please, for August of 2022? We're not even in August of 2023. They will pull it up and say $2,500 in August. This is what you paid. You understand that, sir? You're a smart man.
Your Honor.
Not necessarily an honest man, but a smart man. May I see the proof, please?
This is
Shh.
Okay.
Just show him.
And that's the $2,500.
Okay. Now, what you are suing for are the papers for those 2 dogs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have any other proof that you want to show me with regard to the ownership of these 2 dogs that's not hearsay, Mr. Alford? Plaintiff has the physical custody of the 2 dogs. Is that right? All 3?
September of 2022. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have physical custody. You have any other proof that you contributed to the payment of the dogs?
No.
Okay, good. So this court will...
Unless you want the letter. and
forget
you could verify the letter.
It.
She's not my friend. Though.
I don't care whether you paid the money, sir, whether you turned over the money. The question is, was it your money?
Yes.
Well, you have no proof
that... It was my money.
You have no proof that it was your money. In any event... Go ahead.
She doesn't even care about the dogs. I have proof that she said as soon as the dog has its last litter, I'm going to throw it in the trash and you could get her back. She doesn't care about the dogs.
Well, it's too bad then that you went into business with her. But she has physical custody of the dogs. There's nothing that I'm going to do about that, sir. You haven't had the dogs in your possession for almost a year.
I can't get them from her.
Well, that's...
Your Honor,
just a second. Just a second. I'm issuing an order to the AKC that this court makes the determination that the plaintiff is the owner of these 3 dogs, the 2 of which are in dispute right now, and that new registration papers should be reissued in her name.
In your Honor.
Don't speak.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm finishing up with this because I'm almost done with it. Okay, I don't want to much hear about personal property. You now have the dogs in their possession. Did one of the dogs have a litter?
Yes, she did.
Okay. How many puppies?
5.
When were they born?
April 6th.
Any of them sold yet?
No.
Who's taking care of them?
Me.
Well, you're here. Who's taking care of them now?
My husband. I'm sorry.
All 3 dogs are still with you?
I have 5 dogs. Yes, ma'am.
You have 5 altogether. What kind?
All French Bulldogs.
Okay. Now, let's deal with this assault. You want to tell me what the assault was about?
He was angry because I would not pay the rent anymore. Once the dogs became in my custody, which was September of 2022, I stopped paying rent. I stopped paying everything. And he began to request loans at that point.
You mean in person or on the phone or how?
Loans?
No. Were these demands made in person or over the phone? You moved out. You're now home with your husband and children.
I still would be in contact with him because of the music. So, yes.
Well, what did you have to do with the music?
I basically financed everything. I paid for everything. He had no money. He had this dream. He was homeless at the time, and I...
Okay, so you had an argument after you refused to pay the rent.
I have
and that
pictures
was
of his
just
stuff in trash bags.
Just a second. You had a disagreement about the rent.
Yeah.
In September of 2022.
It was more than the rent, ma'am.
Whatever you had a disagreement about, you say he assaulted you. Tell me where you were when this took place.
Actual assault took place in December. I was staying
December of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where did it take place?
Assault on her or nothing.
What?
I never been charged with assault on her or nothing.
Second. Where did it take place?
The assault took place in the apartment.
So you were there in the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Please. Case 3046, Wyatt versus Moore.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Wyatt, how long were you and Mr. Moore in a relationship?
We've known each other for about 18 years.
Did you ever live together?
On a couple of occasions.
When was the last time you lived together?
January, I believe, 2022.
Were you living in a house or an apartment?
It was a house.
Was it a lease?
Yes.
Was the lease in your name, Mr. Moore's, or both?
No. Apparently, it was an arrangement that he had with the person that he gave the money to. There was no paper.
We're getting far off the field, but it's getting more interesting. Now, Mr. Moore, Miss Wyatt, although I believe she probably has a good memory of this, I have just a sense that she's reluctant to give me information about this for whatever reason. In January of 2022, sir, you and the plaintiff were living in a house together.
No.
When were you living in a house together?
We've never had we've never lived together. When you say live together, I come over. I got a girlfriend I've been having for the whole time, so I've never lived with her.
Do you remember the house she's talking about,
yes,
sir?
Yes, I do.
All right.
The one she destroyed.
I don't want you, just a second. I don't want you to play around with me.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay. Do you know the house she was talking about when the two of you were together some of the time in a house in January of 2022? That's a yes or a no?
Still a no.
Okay, so the house that she's talking about, you lived in alone?
I lived in with my girlfriend, actually.
Oh, just a second. Did Miss Wyatt ever come to stay in that house with you before you had your then current girlfriend?
When I first got the apartment, Miss Wyatt was gonna come. She didn't get along with the lady upstairs. She said she wouldn't come, destroyed the house and left.
Okay, well, if she destroyed the house, then she was in the house. Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
If she destroyed the house, then she was in the house. And if she didn't get along with the lady upstairs, she wouldn't know that unless she actually lived there because she's not telepathic.
Okay.
So she was, in fact, there.
I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm trying to understand what you're saying, man.
What I'm saying is not difficult. She did, in fact, stay there with you for a while after you got this house.
Okay.
Not okay.
No, I'm seeing where you're trying to go with that. I'm trying to see what you're establishing. Yes, she did stay there. I'm agreeing with you. That was me saying yes, ma'am.
Taken a long time, but we're there. Okay. And then at some point, Miss Wyatt, you left there and you went into your own apartment?
Yes.
Okay, and where is your apartment?
I moved into a trailer.
That you were renting?
Yes.
I just want to know. I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's the trailer that he was supposed to pay rent on and utilities on when you went to jail?
Yes, ma'am.
So from 2020 until the time you went to jail for, what, 18 months?
78 weeks. Or, I'm sorry, 78 days.
What did you go to jail for?
In 2018, I received a, I'm sorry.
Just a second. 2018, you had a conviction.
Yes, I ended up serving the time in 2022 for
theft.
Correct. I stole Thanksgiving dinner, ma'am.
Are you sure? It sounds like 78 days is a lot. Were you on probation first?
Yes.
Did you take a plea in that case?
Yes.
Okay. And as part of the plea, you were placed on probation?
Correct.
What was the crime that you pled guilty to? I want to understand this. What was it? Petty theft? Was it grand larceny? What was it?
No, it was retail fraud / shoplifting for $170.
Okay.
That's what it's.
And you were placed on probation?
Yes.
Why was your probation violated? Because that clearly was why you went to jail for 78 days, not because of an old crime, but because you violated probation.
I wasn't keeping in contact with my probation officer like I was supposed to.
Okay. So this case is about the fact that you asked Mr. Moore, who you knew for a long time, to take care of your expenses, your bills, while you were incarcerated, and you gave him your phone.
Yes.
Your phone had the wherewithal, and he understood that because he acknowledges he used it to take money out of your bank account and pay bills, et cetera, with it. And you acknowledge that she gave you her phone for that purpose.
She gave me her phone not to pay bills, but to give her commissary and to keep up with her stuff.
Pay her bills, some to put in her commissary, and the last thing you said was pay her bills and...
Put money in her commissary and keep up with some stuff.
That's the keeping up with some stuff is what we're talking about here, sir. Keeping up with what stuff?
Phone bill, I mean...
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Now it's going to get difficult.
Okay, I'm listening.
Do you understand? I know you are, sir. Keeping up with other stuff. Phone bill.
She bought a... I'm sorry, I'll wait till you
What
ask
else?
the question.
Phone bill?
She ended up buying a computer at that time.
No, I'm asking you.
So, no, I'm telling you, that came off the monies that was there. She was incarcerated. So as a lot of things just come off the phone as a bill, like...
No, I'm asking you what you...
What did I?
What you were supposed to take care of.
It was never etched out. And what I'm saying is she wanted me to stay at her house while she was gone. And that was a means for her to keep in touch with me or keep in contact with me.
No. That's something that I didn't get out of this. So she wanted you to stay in her trailer, because she was living in a trailer at the time while she was incarcerated.
Yep.
Where had you been living?
At my house. That's where I currently live now, with my girlfriend.
With your girlfriend. She wanted you to stay in her trailer?
Yeah.
With your girlfriend?
No. She wanted me to be there so she can keep up with me. That was a means of me having her phone and being in her car and being other thing would be a way for her to keep up with me while she was incarcerated.
And did you like that idea, Mr. Moore?
Not
Just
really.
a second.
No.
I mean, did your girlfriend like that idea?
Not at all.
So why didn't you say to her, I don't want your phone and I don't want any responsibility. Shh, listen to me. I'm living with my girlfriend. We're not an item anymore. And I don't want that tie because My girlfriend knew that I was staying sometimes in your trailer and not being home. That wouldn't be a good thing. So I'm not going to take your phone. Find somebody. Who are you?
Andrew Porter. I'm her son.
You're her son. Mm-hmm. Is there anything wrong with you?
No.
Do you talk to your mother?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you work?
Yes.
Yeah. So your mother could have given you her phone and said, pay the bills.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
You can stand next to your mother. It's getting more fascinating by the moment. I want to tell you something.
Claims her ex-boyfriend, John Moore, misused money she gave him while she was in jail. John is countersuing for a false arrest.
So, do you understand, Miss White? I know that you thought it was going to be easier when you came here.
No, I did not. But
I'm very glad, because I have a feeling I could scratch the surface and I'd find more dirt. The more I scratched.
You would.
The more I scratched. Well, I have no intention of spending my life on this nonsense, because now I see that you have a perfectly normal child, an adult child, to whom you could have assigned the task of paying your bills. And I assume that you trusted him more than you trusted this guy, who seems to have a girlfriend, but then, it can be convenient. He can go here.
It's never painted that way when it's in the midst of things, but he...
Yeah, I also work out of state.
What?
I work out of state. I'm like a field engineer, so I'm only in Michigan maybe a couple weeks at a time.
That's okay.
I mean,
paying your bills doesn't mean that you have to be in Michigan. You can pay your bills, and you could have done all of those things, except anyway, this is your case. You allege that Mr. Moore took money out of your account, a couple of $1,000.
$781 of that he gave to me while I was in jail, but the remainder, he can't account for anything that he did.
So somebody did put in your commissary?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, he said he also sent you, there was $600 in the account when he gave the phone back to you. Was there $600 in the account when you were released from jail?
The date of that?
What's the date of it, sir?
She asked the question, but the answer did I give it to her? I don't have it. I didn't know I was going to come to court, so I didn't. But if I look at my phone, I'm quite sure, because all our transactions were via Cash App.
What do you mean you didn't know you were coming to court? Where did you think you were coming today?
When we were in this situation, never did I think we would be sued. Oh. So I wasn't keeping tally.
But now you know you're coming to court, so it would seem to me if there's an allegation in your answer that I returned the phone to her, there was still $600 in the account, at least I would have that document.
Give me a second, I can get right
I can give you a second.
I believe that amount was for the August rent on it.
Just a second. All I'm asking you is, did he put $600, when he gave you the phone, was there still $600 in the account?
No, that was like a month after. That was for August.
What do you mean it was for August? What does that mean?
For the August rent. This whole thing with not living with me and not being with me or whatever is untrue. When I got out of jail, we were supposed to be working together, living together. This was anything like he's describing with having somebody else or anything like that.
I would like to see, Mr. Moore, when you gave her back the phone, that there was $600 on the phone.
It's her phone. I'm not sure.
Just a second.
I'm saying, I don't have evidence of her phone.
Okay, now.
But if you asked her, she'll tell you I gave her $600.
You say that the money that you used, and you acknowledge that you used some of the money, was because you drove her car for a half a block.
Nope, it was more than a half a block.
Well, just a second, let me see.
It says that.
Just a second. I drove her car 1 block to my job. So it wasn't a half a block. Just a second. I drove her car 1 block. I apologize, it wasn't half a block. Put your hand down. To my job when she was in jail, and the alternator went out, and it was impounded. Now, explain that to me. You drove her car, you had your own. For some reason, you drove hers. Why don't you give me a one sentence as to why you drove hers?
One sentence.
One sentence.
On my truck, I had my equipment, my lawn equipment, and I was just going 1 block away, so I didn't want to have to turn it around. And the car was impounded at my job, 1 block away from my house.
Why was it impounded?
Because it stopped on it. The alternator stopped.
Just a second. Cars aren't impounded because an alternator stopped.
The alternator stopped in the middle of the street. I couldn't move it. They had to tow it because it was in the driveway. They towed the car because the alternator stopped.
What you said? Well, that's your fault, sir.
It's my fault her alternator went out?
Yes, sir. It's your fault that the car was impounded.
I'm listening. No, I'm really trying to understand.
I want you to listen. Yes, it's your fault. And I don't know what other nonsense there is here, but if Sarah was driving her car and it stopped running because the alternator went out, I'm going to take a guess and I'm going to say, Sarah, what would you do if your car stopped running in a driveway, blocking the driveway? What would you do?
Call AAA.
Call AAA. Call a tow truck. And you would call a tow truck and ask the tow truck to take it to a...
Auto repair shop.
To an auto repair shop. Your first clue would not be just to leave the truck there and say, send it to impound.
No, it happened.
Just a second. Mr. Moore, please try not to test yourself on the dumb scale. Nobody who's responsible because a car breaks down leaves it in the middle of the road to be impounded. That doesn't make sense. It's illogical. Second thing I'm concerned about is when your car is impounded, in order to get it out of impound, which you say that you did, you have to show proof of title.
Yes.
Yes. Now, how did you get proof of title?
Because I had the title. I had the title.
Just a second. I hear the wheels. I hear. You had the title because?
I had access to her house.
Well, the title is in her name.
Right.
They wouldn't give you the car. You're not her. I mean, I would look at, I say, not even close. Unless she gave you authorization in writing to get the car out for her, no impound service is going to let you take her car because anybody could pick up a title and say, I want that car out. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you want to try that again with me?
Here's my question. I end up getting a...
No, just a second.
Okay.
I want you to tell me where it was impounded.
It was impounded at my job. It was impounded and it was in a place that was a high traffic. I walked back to the house.
Yeah, I want to tell you something. You wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face, Mr. Moore.
That's what happened.
You wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face and introduced itself to you.
Okay.
Now, how much did it cost to get the car out of impound?
It cost me $1,000 total.
No, it didn't cost you anything because you took it out of her phone. Didn't cost you. It cost $1,000
to get it insured, retitled, so I could have the ability to get the car out.
Well, how did you get her name on the title?
What you mean?
What do you mean, what do I mean? She has to sign it over to you in order to...
It was already signed over to me. It was already signed over. It was already signed. I sell cars, Miss Judy.
You don't sell cars. You just told me that your car broke down on the way to your place of business.
Yeah, to my job.
On your job, and your job is not an auto mechanic or salesman for a car service, which is what you told me. I sell cars, Miss Judy. That's why the title was turned over to me, signed over, and I managed to get the car titled in my name. You want to try this on for me?
Judge Judy, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you, but I was in a situation where it was impounded. They were charging $30 every single day, and she would have lost her car. So
just say you...
Just a second.
No, I didn't.
Just a second.
I didn't forge anything.
Well, you had to have forged something, sir. Because if it was in impound, and what you're saying is they were charging $30 a day, she was going to lose her car. Your next statement was, because you keep digging that hole a little deeper and a little deeper, you couldn't get it out because the car was in her name, not yours, but you had the title because you had access to the trailer, which is what she's suggesting, and you went and forged her signature, got a new title, got insurance, and the car was clearly towed, but you got it out of impound, that's what you said, with a new title in your name and insurance, also, I assume, in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the car?
Gave it back to her when she got out.
Just a second. You gave it back to her. Did you sign over the title?
Yes.
Shh. So you...
Bill Wyatt has accused her ex-boyfriend, John Moore, of stealing her money while she was in jail. John is countersuing, claiming Jill had him falsely arrested.
Now, did you sign over the title to her?
I signed over everything to her because she sold the car since then.
Oh, did you sell the car?
Since all this?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. But he's...
I'm what?
He's what?
I had to go through police department and the sheriff's department and threaten him in order to get my title back. He would not give me back my title.
Not at all.
Do you have any proof of that?
Any proof of?
That you had to go through the police department, sheriff's department, or anything else in order to get your title back. Do you have any proof of that at all?
I don't have any proof of that, ma'am.
Okay. So it was $1,000 for impound that he took out of your account.
Correct.
That's $1,000.
No.
And
okay.
Did you take out $1,000 from her account to get it out of impound? Well, you just said. Show me that you paid $1,000 to get it out of impound.
I can't show it to you because all the paperwork was in the car.
Did you pay impound by credit card or
paid
cash?
It by cash.
Cash. Then you would have taken cash out.
I had a job, Judge Judy.
You're so full of baloney, sir.
I did have a job, Judge Judy.
You're so full of baloney. Okay, $1,000.
Okay.
Next, you say in your answer, Mr. Moore, that you paid for it. You paid for it out of her money. You say in your answer you paid for it out of her money.
Judy, that's kind of going back and forth.
Oh, listen.
We've split money back and forth. If I give you a copy of our Cash App, it's the exact same money back and forth over the last couple of years. I sent her money, she sent me.
Just a second. Why would she do that, sir, if you have a girlfriend?
I'm monogamously challenged.
Listen. Why would you do that back and forth if what you said to me earlier was, I don't know what she's talking about. I live with my girlfriend in the same place as I'm living now. Now let's move on to, so far I have $1,000. And I really, Miss Wyatt, don't understand anything else. And I'm not spending any more time with your case. That's the person who should have been taking care of your business, not this nonsense.
Yes.
Not this nonsense, because I'm not exactly sure whether I'm getting the whole story from this side either. All right, now you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for $2,000 for having you falsely arrested.
Yes, ma'am.
Let us move on with falsely arrested. After she gets out of jail, according to what I read, the two of you are kaput.
No.
Well, okay, here we go. We're going to go back to your answer and your counterclaim, sir. I'm going to read you what I said. On February 13th, I went out to a few bars to have a good time. Jill was at a different bar, but came and met me where I was at. Upon arrival, you're not paying attention.
Yes, I am listening to you.
On arrival, Jill started to pressure me to leave with her. I reminded her that we were no longer an item, and I didn't want to leave. She was making a scene, so we went outside to finish our conversation. That's your counterclaim. Now, pick it up from there. That's what you wrote. Try to remember.
I wasn't going anywhere.
Okay.
And then she told me, I'll show you. But you told me this thing's, Judge Judy, if it's not accurate, would you want me to let you go ahead? Because I didn't write that. I signed it to them. They told me I'd be able to explain this to you as we're doing this here. I stopped and said, hell no, that didn't happen. No, we didn't fight. It wasn't one block. They said, you'll get a chance to explain that to the judge.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't listen to anybody else, sir, when you sign a document that says, Flash Moore, being duly sworn, deposes and says that this is accurate.
We didn't live together. We still
Would you mind telling me what happened in the bar on February 13th?
She told me she was going to get me locked up for domestic violence because I had assaulted her. I had not assaulted her. I told her whatever, and I walked back into the bar. Sat down, the police pulled up, and they said, sir, would you come step outside? Excuse me. They said, would you come step outside? I stepped outside. They said, put your hands behind your back. We're locking you up for domestic violence.
May I please have a copy of your complaint?
I can give you all this, what I have from...
Don't give me all that you have.
So you saying the complaint, I was arrested on the spot.
There was a disposition in that case.
Yes, they dismissed it.
Okay.
This is all complaint to the disposition.
Oh, here we go. The case was dismissed in the interests of justice because you agreed to pay her restitution for, just a second. Yep. That's what, you agreed to pay her restitution in the amount of $246, which I assume represents the broken eyeglasses that she says that you broke. This says receipt of restitution monies. Same case. I, John Moore, state that I have delivered a check in the amount of $246 to the Calhoun County Prosecutor's Office. It is my understanding that this check represents the amount of restitution that is owed to the victim, according to the agreement entered into by the defendant. So you paid restitution.
Excuse me. Judge, I'm trying to, if you say something, I want to clarify.
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Did you sign this?
When I can talk.
Did you sign this?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you're cooked.
So if
it's over.
I got a question for you.
No, I don't answer your questions.
If I get off of work, I've been in this court case 5 times in a row. It cost me $200 and some to come to court, and they said we'll dismiss all charges. There'll be no charges at all if you agree to pay $250. I've paid $800 coming to court. So why wouldn't I just say, hey, here, I'll pay you the money and then try to sue you for false arrest? Because I never harmed. Where's the glasses at? Well, where's the picture of the glasses? The police arrested me on the spot.
Mr. Moore, like a perennial victim, I really feel sorry for you. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
So I'm
Just
getting
a sec,
arrested
Mr.
for
Moore.
doing anything, why wouldn't I pay
It's dismissed.
$250
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Your counterclaim's dismissed. I am finished with this case permanently.
Thank you. Have a great day.
This court is adjourned.
It went just like I thought it would be.
I'm pleased with the results.
She mad. I don't want to deal with her anymore.
My guards are up now.
Hey, she wanted to get her day in court. I can leave with it.
Not ask anybody for help.
She the one was locked up for. I've never been locked up for stealing. She was locked up for stealing. That's the thief. The pot calling the kettle black.
Just to be careful who you trust.
There was a great line from the defendant out there. I don't think anyone caught it. But when you asked, how is it possible that you could live with the plaintiff and have your girlfriend and all at the same time? How's that possible? And then he moved on to something else and continued rambling. But he said, Miss Judy, I'm monogamously challenged. I'm monogamously challenged. And I heard it and I started laughing and I saw no one else made any sort of reaction. And I said, I must have been the only one that heard that, or I misheard that. But I'm pretty sure that was his excuse.
It's a great line, and it's true.
Yeah, it seemed very true in that case.
I have a feeling there's a lot more there.
Yeah.
But it was
a lot more dirt to scratch.
A lot more
through,
there,
I'm
but enough.
Oh.
That's a funny line. Monogamously challenged.
All right, Mello versus Pilgrim. All parties, please step forward.
Joy Mello is suing her former attorney, Larry Pilgrim, for the cost of a suit her son wore during his trial.
Miss Mello, I am certain that you are very sad.
Yes.
You have every right to be sad.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, your son was tried and convicted of murder in 2021.
That's correct.
And currently is serving a life sentence.
That is correct.
You had retained Mr. Pilgrim, who is an attorney, to represent him during that trial.
Yes.
Were you the person who paid him?
My family did collectively, but I worked 3 jobs to make payments until his money was paid in full.
Mr. Pilgrim represented him, I believe, from 2019 to 2021. Is that correct, sir?
Correct. September of 2019 until the trial in December of 21.
Who was he convicted of murdering?
The gentleman's name was Kenny. I'm sorry.
An acquaintance?
I think they knew each other, yes, but they were rivals. It was a love interest, love triangle type of case.
Got it. This is what the case is about. It's not a difficult case. When the trial began, your son was allowed to wear civilian clothes rather than prison attire to court, and you went out and bought him clothes for about $700. And according to you, you asked Mr. Pilgrim, when the trial was over, to please get the clothes. And Mr. Pilgrim, according to you, assured you he would get the clothes back to you, and you never got the clothes back.
Never.
And Mr. Pilgrim says, you know, once prisoner is convicted and they go back from the courtroom, they take these clothes. He doesn't know what happens to them. And they went probably into a large room where people who are similarly situated to your son, but who don't have a mother to buy them clothes, can go in and choose something to wear in court other than an orange jumpsuit. He has no idea where the clothes are, correct?
That's correct.
Joy Mello claims her former attorney, Larry Pilgrim, refuses to pay for the cost of a suit her son wore during his trial.
All right, Ms. Pilgrim, this is not a very difficult case. This is a case about being sad and mad at the wrong person. So I want you to tell me on what you base your case that he is responsible for the clothes that your son wore.
I gave the clothes to Mr. Pilgrim. I purchased them at his request, gave him the clothes. When he didn't return them, I went to the sheriff's department. I asked what the procedure was. They said the attorney in question is to pick up the clothes. That's his responsibility. I wrote a letter.
You know that you can't tell me that.
Oh.
I'm just telling you that because that's hearsay.
Yes, ma'am.
You went to the sheriff's department. You went to the sheriff's department. Somebody told you it was the lawyer's responsibility. I actually have never heard that.
Okay. And I wrote a letter to the judge, the trial judge, who told me.
Don't tell me what the trial judge told you.
I have it.
I would like to see
the letter.
I would like to see. Don't give me a whole bunch of stuff.
I'll give you the letter that I wrote to the judge and his response.
Fine. Okay, the judge was very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice to answer you. It seems that your family should have bigger fish to fry than these clothes. Judge says this matter has been researched and it was determined that your son's clothing was returned to Conflict Criminal Defenders Coordinator by the Sheriff's Department. Please reach out to that office.
And I did.
And?
They told me that
You can't tell me what they told you. If you have an official correspondence, I'll read it.
No, I do not.
Okay.
I only have, again, the procedure.
There's no procedure. You were told by the court. You reached out to them.
Yes.
This is an official
document. They said they didn't know where my... I can't tell you that they didn't tell me. They told me they had no idea that all the clothes went in one big bag.
I don't care where they went. He doesn't have your son's clothes. How tall is your son?
5'10", 10 and a half.
So he's 5'10" and a half. How tall are you?
5'10".
Yeah, how much does he weigh?
Now?
No, then.
About 190,
yeah,
190 pounds.
Do I have to say? More than 190.
You don't have his clothes, do you?
No, certainly not.
Mr. Pilgrim, because this is all a matter, in my view, looking at Miss Mello, and she appears to be a very nice lady. When something sad happens like this, you have various emotions, and very often you choose the wrong target for your anger. In this case, a lot of time was spent, over $700 worth of clothes for a young man who's serving 50 to life for murder. You have other children, Miss Mello?
Yes, I do.
How many other children do you have?
I have 4 other children. My daughter, she's a witness. And the clothes, actually, my sons could have worn them.
It's possible. It's not his responsibility. The judge told you where to go.
He told me where the clothes went.
He doesn't know where the clothes went. I would actually be willing to wager an awful lot that he doesn't have your clothes.
That's who I gave them to.
No, you gave them to your son. He was the conduit between you and your son. The last person who you saw wearing those clothes was your son.
That's correct.
Okay, so after that, you don't know what happened to them. You may have given it to them, just like if you walked into a courtroom and handed them to Kevin, and then you didn't see them again. Say, Kevin, I gave you the clothes. Well, he gave them to whom they were designed to be given. That doesn't mean Kevin's responsible if you don't get your clothes back. That's the same thing with Mr. Pilgrim. Your anger is directed at the wrong person, Miss Mello. I don't know the circumstances surrounding the death of Kenny, but your son was convicted by 12 people. And the judge found the circumstances of that conviction egregious enough to sentence him to 50 years to life. That's who your anger should be directed against your son, not him.
But I'm not angry. I just want my money for the clothes that I spent.
You're not going to get it from him. He's not responsible for your clothes. Cross it off your list after 2-3 years. That's $700. Cross it off because you don't know where the clothes are. They were on some other prisoner who had to appear in court for robbery and assault and who didn't have a nice enough mother to buy him clothes. So he got your clothes, or they were donated to a parish, or they were donated someplace else. Mr. Pilgrim is not responsible for the clothes. The last person who you saw in possession of the clothes was your son.
Correct.
Goodbye. Case is dismissed.
This court is adjourned.
I'm disheartened because the amount that I spent on my son's clothes, and I did give them to the lawyer.
You know, it was sad for her and her whole family, the whole incident.
He should have been responsible to retrieve my property.
And I agree with the judge that I think she just had some misdirected anger.
You know, I think just the takeaway from this case is that people have an easier time dealing with the emotion of anger than sadness. And we see it all the time. You know, if somebody passes away, the grief can overwhelm you. But if you can find a target for your anger, anger is the easier emotion to deal with, because the plaintiff in this case seemed like an intelligent, put-together lady. Certainly the family came together. I'm certain that this lawyer was not inexpensive. But the bottom line is that she doesn't have the companionship of this son anymore. Because I can't think of any other reason that over 2 years you maintain this sort of vendetta for used clothing. So, lady has to put her anger where it belongs, which is the person who committed a murder and who not only ruined his own life, but probably impacted his whole family. Because that's what happens when you go to jail, you impact the whole family.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice are suing their former employee, Trevor McCormick, for breaking his lease, the cost of a phone, as well as a personal loan.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Case number 2031, Snyder Alice versus McCormick.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Snyder, you own a farm,
I do,
and this is your girlfriend.
yes.
How long has she been your girlfriend?
5 years tomorrow.
You say that as if 5 years tomorrow. And?
And I'm just saying, it's 5 years.
5 years tomorrow.
Yeah.
And?
And the rest of our lives.
Okay, good. He know that?
No, he's learning.
He's learning. Terrific. Okay, this is what I'm gathering from the bare bones of the story. Mr. McCormick was dating an employee of yours.
Correct.
What was that employee's name?
Natasha.
When were you dating the lovely Natasha?
We weren't really dating. We were an acquaintance.
Where was Natasha living?
She was living, when we first met, she was living at a friend's house, and she was working for Adam as an employee at a restaurant.
And when was that? Month and year?
I'd say around September of last year.
September 2021?
Yes.
And?
And we decided to move out because Adam had.
Well, so you were living with Natasha at the friend's house?
Yes.
Where had you been living before?
My mom's.
So you went from mom's house to Natasha and a friend's house?
Yes.
Okay. And then where did you go?
Then we moved into the trailer right next to Adam that he owned.
Who had a discussion with Mr. Snyder about potentially renting the trailer so you would have a place to live? And what kind of rent were you paying?
I believe it was $800.
And you moved into the trailer when?
Around November.
Of 2021?
Yes.
And you lived in the trailer till when?
About March.
March of 2022?
Yes.
In March, what happened?
Me and Natasha weren't getting along. I just had enough.
There was never a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship.
No.
She was just a friend. Did you know that?
That is not true.
So what did you do?
I asked Adam if I could move into the ranch house. There was nobody living there at the time.
Where were you living?
I live at my home with Julie.
Okay, and there's a ranch house on the farm.
I have a ranch house on a separate piece of property.
Close by to the farm?
Yes, 3 miles.
That was vacant?
Correct.
Okay, so you asked to rent it?
Yes.
Who was going to rent it?
I was.
Just you?
Yes, just me.
How much was the rent?
It was $800.
And this was in March?
Yes.
Prior to March of 2022, what kind of work were you doing?
I was working at a factory.
How long did you work there?
About a month.
What month?
March.
Prior to March, where were you working?
On Adam's farm.
From when to when?
I'd say about December until March.
Well, in December to March, you were living in the trailer.
Yes.
Okay. And you were living with the lovely Natasha.
Correct.
And Natasha, I assume, was contributing to the rent.
Yes.
And how much were you contributing to the rent? Is not an answer. How much were you contributing to the rent from December to March of 2021?
Couple hundred a month.
That's not an answer. A couple of hundred a month. How much do you pay for rent? $316 a month and 24 cents. How much does it cost to have your garbage picked up? $59.12. Do you understand? Certain things change. What was your electric bill last year? I don't remember. What was your bill last month? I don't remember.
$300, ma'am.
You see? But I mean, a couple is two.
Yes.
Who did you pay that to?
Natasha.
Well, I can't tell whether you paid that to Natasha or not. Did you ever discuss rent with Mr. Snyder?
No.
Even in the trailer?
Even in the trailer.
So that was all done through Natasha?
Correct.
Okay. But according to you, you worked someplace in March, but before that you worked on the farm.
Yes.
From when to when? December to March?
Yes.
Beginning, middle, or the end of December?
The middle, the 16th.
Is that about right?
If you want to call
Just
helping...
helping whatever?
Yes.
December 16th. Okay. And from December 16th, you did whatever work it was on the farm until March?
Yes.
March what?
Till I moved out.
No, March what? Beginning, middle, and...
28th.
And what was the rent in the ranch house? The ranch house must have been nicer than the trailer you were living in.
$800.
You moved in April?
Yes.
How much money did you give him?
$900.
Some was to go towards security?
I was in between jobs, and that's what I had. So we made an agreement that I'd pay $900 the week of, and then so on and so on. I don't have
What's the so on and so on?
I don't have the copy of the lease. He never gave me it.
Did you sign a lease?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
I have it right here. In the back of the contract, you'll see where we wrote down he would pay $900
Just a second.
on the 8th.
Okay, so the security deposit was supposed to be $1,200. You paid $800.
Paid $900.
The security deposit was 12, and you paid 9 of security deposit?
I paid 9 total, ma'am.
Well, how many months did you live there?
Not even 1.
When did you move out?
April 24th, I moved out.
Is that correct?
That's close, yes.
Okay.
I don't know exactly when he moved out because he didn't tell me he was moving out. He just locked the door.
Okay.
And wouldn't
but it was in
return
April.
messages.
Okay. And you had $900.
He paid $900.
And the rent on the property was supposed to be?
$800 per month.
$800 monthly.
Yes.
So right now, you've been paid for the month that he lived there.
Correct.
Prior to his moving in there, who was living there?
Nobody.
So it wasn't rented?
Nope.
In what year was it last rented?
2021.
When?
Oh, no, it was in February. We did an eviction on it.
So somebody lived there and didn't pay rent?
Correct.
Is that the first person who came and didn't pay rent?
Definitely not.
Definitely not. Yeah, it's
And
lousy
Trevor
to be a
was there, and
landlord.
he helped us do the eviction on that, so he knew how it worked.
Hmm?
Trevor was there. He helped us do the eviction because we had to have court officers there.
To get him out because they weren't paying rent.
So he knows how it works.
Well, he may know how it works, but he did, in fact, give you $900.
He did.
And he lived there for less than a month.
That's right.
So that's sort of square. I know you'd like him to be responsible for his lease, but you have your house back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, tell me about this phone that you say he owes you for.
Okay.
By the way, where's your phone?
I have my phone that I paid for. Their phone that I put a down payment for is at my house.
Why?
I didn't know I had to bring it.
Well, it was just purchased within the last year.
Yeah.
Why do you have 2 phones? You have no
Because,
job. Why do you have 2 phones?
I have a job.
Oh, good.
I bought this outright because he shut the other phone off.
Oh, well, where is the phone?
The phone's at my house.
What kind of phone is it?
It's an iPhone 13.
You want it back?
I'd like him to just pay for it like the agreement was, but...
He gets back his phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Even though I
Wait,
paid
just
it
a
down.
second. Where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in Highland.
Where is that?
It's by Detroit, Michigan.
Who else lives at home?
My girlfriend,
What's her name?
Ariel.
Where is she?
She is currently working right now.
Does she know where the phone is?
Yes.
Okay. They're going to give you an envelope in the clerk's office back here. You're going to tell Ariel to put his phone carefully packed and mail it to him. FedEx, UPS, the fastest way it will get there. Then you get your phone back. Go. What's next?
I have text messages here from Trevor. This will show where, when he was dating Natasha, they had agreed that they would pay for their phones up front so that I would put them on my business plan. I told them I would only do that if they paid for the phones up front, because when I took Trevor to Verizon, I said, if they don't pay for their phone bill, as long as they've paid for these phones in full, I can shut them off and it will cost my business no money, correct?
Hmm?
And the lady said, that is right. I said, okay, then we can do it. So we added them to the bill, to the business plan. And here, where I text him, I said, you and Natasha told me you were paying for the phone in cash. That's why I allowed you on my business plan. Now I found out that you did not pay for the phones up front, because when we were in there, he and Natasha had the cash.
Did you assure Mr. Snyder that you were going to pay for the phone?
I had no idea I was even going to get a phone until Natasha said, go with Adam and go pick up our phones. That's all I heard, and that's what I did.
Well,
I didn't know
can't
about
say that
cash.
to me because the lovely Natasha isn't here either. Sir, you're going to get your phone back. Is it one phone or more?
We recovered the second one from...
Well, you're going to recover this one too. You recovered the second one.
Yeah.
Second one was Natasha's?
Correct.
Great, we're going to recover this one too. What's next? Changing lock fees, and you want a personal loan. Okay. So once he moved out, according to you, he moved out totally, and you didn't even know he moved out, so I don't know why the locks were changed.
The lock did not need changed. I did tell the court that we were going to have to change the locks because the key was missing. I didn't know that while I was away on storm, Julie had gone in to check and make sure the water wasn't running, and she found the key on the table. And that is what Trevor said.
So we're going to eliminate that. And now we're going to go to the small loan that you say that you made to the defendant.
So Natasha came over, guys. Like he said, she worked at...
Don't tell me what Natasha asked you. That's all hearsay. I need to know what conversations you had with the defendant.
Okay, but she came over...
But you can't tell me what she said, you see.
Okay. So
and
anyway,
if you made a contract, if you made a contract with Natasha for a loan of money, even if it went for his benefit, do you understand? Okay. Even if it went for his benefit, he's not responsible. If Natasha says, I want you to give, what's your first name?
Trevor.
Trevor, a loan to fix his car, and you say, okay, you need somebody to pay you back. Natasha has to say, I'll pay you back. However, you can't tell me that.
Adam Snyder and Julie Ellis claim their former employee, Trevor McCormick, owes for the cost of a phone and a personal loan. Trevor is countersuing for unpaid wages.
Now, did you ever have a conversation with Trevor about money?
I do. I have a text message telling him.
No, tell me, not a text message.
The conversation was not verbal.
It was by text message?
Correct.
Okay, so I'd like to see text message from him.
Yep. This has from Trevor. This is his number.
Okay. May I see it, please?
He did pay me $100 in cash.
Okay, so it's clear from this text exchange, sir, that you borrowed a certain amount of money from the plaintiff.
I did not borrow, Natasha.
Yes, well, it acknowledges it here because you say, I start that job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first check. It was for me, and I will pay it. That's what you wrote. Do you understand? Do you want to look at it?
No.
You don't want to look at it. You're not questioning me, so it's clear from this that you borrowed money from Miss Ailes.
I personally did not. I didn't even know what was going on.
Who wrote this? I start that job on the 14th.
That was me.
Well, then, that's in response to her text message to you that says, hello, Trevor. I heard you were moving out and I need that paid by the end of the month. I have been very patient as no attempt has been made on this. Thank you. And you immediately wrote back to her and said, I start that job on the 14th and I will pay you out of my first paycheck. That's what you said to her.
Yes, ma'am.
You mean, yes, ma'am. Now, I'm going to get back and ask you the question I think I asked before. What was the loan for?
I broke down in Oklahoma.
In what month and year was that?
About September of last year.
September of 2021 is just about when you started dating Natasha.
Correct.
Okay, so your car broke down in Oklahoma. And?
And it had to get fixed.
And?
So I rode the Greyhound bus back up to Michigan and waited until my car got fixed, which took months.
I'm asking you, what was the loan for?
To go back down and get my car.
So it was $670 that you borrowed from her, and I want to know how it was that you got the money.
I came in to Julie's house, and Natasha said, you're going to Oklahoma to pick up your car, because I didn't have any money right then and there, but I wasn't going to ask anybody.
Just a second. I don't care what you were going to do, what you didn't do, what you thought about doing. You went into the house that the plaintiffs share.
Mm-hmm.
Not uh-huh. Uh-huh is not an answer. The answer is yes. The lovely Natasha was there.
Yes.
With Julie.
Yes.
What did you say and what did Julie say to you? Just Julie.
Julie didn't really say anything. She said, don't tell Adam about the money.
Oh, so she said she would give you money?
Yes.
And she knew exactly how much you needed?
Yes.
Did you tell her that?
No.
Okay. When she gave you the money, did she give it to you in check or cash?
She didn't give me no money. She gave Natasha the money.
Okay. How much was it?
$700, around there.
And after it was given to you by Natasha, but you were all in the same room together?
I was not in the house at the time when they were discussing that.
Well, you said you went into the house.
I came to pick Natasha up. Yes.
I don't want you to make yourself appear any more stupid. Do you understand?
Yes.
Try not to do that. You were in the house with Julie and Natasha at some point, and at some point, money was discussed.
No.
Was money discussed in front of him?
No, it was not.
Okay. So your loan was not with him. Do you understand?
Yes.
Unless he ratifies the loan subsequently. Is that correct?
Correct.
This is from my person who just studied for the bar, and I have to go back in my mind 50 years. If my memory is correct, if you don't make a loan directly with someone, they cannot be obligated to repay that money. However, if they subsequently get use of that money and subsequently agree to repay you, they have ratified that contract.
Correct. You just have to decide if that's a ratification.
Yeah. What would be your take on that? Take a look at it very carefully. What would be your take?
It was for me, I will pay it. Seems pretty close to textbook ratification.
Yeah, I would say so. I start a job on the 14th. I will pay you back out of my first paycheck.
I just wanted to keep the peace because she was down my throat.
This woman was down your throat?
Yes.
She may have been annoyed, very annoyed, but she wasn't down your throat. She was the one who volunteered to give you money in your time of need. How could she be down your throat? Okay. So far you paid her back $100. Is that what he paid you back? So he owes you $600. Okay. So far, Mr. Snyder, I'm not with you on it. on the rent.
Okay.
I'm not with you on the lock change fees. I am with you on the phone, which you're going to get back. He's going to get that back within 5 days. Otherwise, he's going to have difficulty.
Here from the day that he did the phone purchases, instead of paying for the phones up front, he also added a bunch of other cordless phone chargers and everything else to the bill.
How much were the extras?
Totally, there's 2,000.
No. I don't want them total. Total, you're going to get the phone back. What were the extras that he charged onto the phone?
There is a $41.99.
$41.99.
There is a $20.99.
Okay. You know that I went to 7 years of postgraduate school for this. Keep going.
$29.99.
7 years. They were very hard years. I also took the bar exam. Keep going. $29.99.
$17.99.
Oh, it's getting worse. Not better for you, Mr. Snyder.
And $11.99.
Worse. A lot worse.
$122.95.
Okay. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
Working on the farm.
Okay. Tell me about that. From when to when did you work on the farm?
November to the end of March.
And what were you doing between November and March?
I was feeding cattle when Adam was on storm, watering them.
To March what? The end of March?
Yes, right.
I thought you worked at a factory.
I did both.
Well, you can't do both. You work at a factory. I asked you if you had a job. You said, I work at a factory.
I did do both.
Well, now I need the name of the factory and find out what your shift was.
I was,
And you worked during the day.
Yes.
From when to when?
From
Time.
6 to 6.
Well,
I had...
Just a second. Mr. McCormick, if you work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., it is not possible to work a full-time job for the plaintiff as well.
I had a schedule of three on, 2 off.
Okay. We're making it up as we're going along.
Adam Snyder and Julie Alice have accused their former employee, Trevor McCormick, of refusing to pay the cost of a phone and the balance of a loan. Trevor claims he was not paid for the work he did on their farm.
Now, did he work for you?
It would be very minimal. He would put hay bales out, which would take 10
He would
minutes.
put what?
Hay bales out for the cattle.
Hay bales?
Yes.
At approximately what time of day? Because I'm not getting...
He could come and do it when he got home from work.
Okay. And did you have a financial arrangement with him for putting out these bales of hay?
We never did.
Okay. Is there any reason why you never did?
Because he didn't do it very often, and he said he was just happy to help, although he did get paid for everything he did until the last day that he worked for me, where we were tearing apart a building.
So he got paid when he worked for you?
He did.
That's
Oh,
incorrect.
just don't speak. From when to when?
When he helped me, it was very minimal. It would be...
No, I'm not talking about the hay. You said he did, in fact, work for me.
He did.
I want to know, but not on the farm. He worked someplace else.
He helped on another piece of farmland that I have.
Okay.
Where a barn had fallen down. We were tearing the steel off, and he worked 3 hours that morning.
3 hours what morning?
The last day that he was there, it would have been...
So that's in March?
Early, I would say the second week of March.
Okay. When was the first time he worked there?
I would say probably in January.
And he was working at this other plant from 6 to 6 in March,
Correct.
According to him. So he did some work for you in the first month, which was January.
Yeah, if he helped me, it might be 1 day a week.
Fine, I just want to know if he got paid for it. That's what he's...
Yes, he
We
did.
can't do May something. How much did you pay him?
It would depend on how much he worked. One day I gave him $300 for helping me for a day and a half on another demolition job I did.
And you paid him in cash?
Correct.
Okay.
That was for the demolition job. That wasn't for the farm.
It doesn't make any difference, sir. If you have a full-time job and you're working part-time someplace else and you say he paid you...
He did not pay me.
Well, you say he didn't pay you for the farm. What he's saying is he had a job with me. He was a demolition job for which he got paid, which you do not deny. Is that right?
I'm not.
You just said that's not what I asked you. He paid you for the job that you did part-time for him
Yes,
in
he paid me for
demolition.
that job, yes.
So that's a yes.
Yes.
And what you're suing him for is allegedly money that he owes you for working on the farm during a period that does include March when you were working full-time someplace else.
Correct.
And working for him.
Yes.
And doing this work at the site in March, the first 2 weeks in March, because you got some money for that.
Correct.
So now you have, according to you, 3 jobs. 1, 2, 3.
Yes.
First of all, you had no fixed financial arrangement with him at the farm.
Correct. He said he'd pay me what he can.
That is not a contract. Okay, but let's move forward with that. Tell me what your chores were at the farm.
I would go feed them hay.
Just feed who hay?
The cows.
Okay, how many cows do you have?
130.
Anybody else work on the farm or just him?
Just me mainly, and he would help when I was gone.
Okay, and in order to keep these animals alive, they have to be fed hay.
Correct.
For how many months did you feed them hay?
3.
Once a day?
Yes.
And what time would you do this?
Usually in the morning.
Before you went to work?
Yes.
That had to be 5 o'clock in the morning. You went to work at 6 o'clock. You had a shift, according to you, from 6 to 6.
Yes.
Okay, so how long did this take you in the morning when you had a full-time job?
Sometimes.
Not sometimes. I want you to tell me how long it took you.
Average about an hour and a half a day.
So let's say it took you an hour a day. And how many days did you do it?
I was with him every day before I got the job. I would go with him every day.
I don't care.
Okay.
For the 3 months, I'm asking you how many days you did it.
45.
That be right? In the 3 months, maybe 45 days? How many days did he put out hay?
If Trevor fed the cattle 12 days the whole time by himself, I'd be surprised.
And I helped him because I was there.
You did not help me when
Just
he
a
was
second.
gone.
Yes.
You helped him with the bales
Yes,
of hay?
I helped him because we also had another hired hand that would help me too. So I was rotating between both of them.
Okay, so let's say he worked 20 hours. Did you pay him any extra money for this work?
No, not for feeding cattle.
Not feeding cattle. And you didn't have any arrangement with him whereby he would work on the farm and he would get something off his rent?
No.
Okay, so he has to be paid for that. Sarah Rose, would you look up and see if there's a minimum wage in Michigan? What's the federal minimum wage? I don't know anymore.
$15.
So the minimum wage is now $15 an hour. That's federal.
Yes, ma'am.
15 times 20.
$300.
Okay, so, Mr. Snyder, let's start with you. You are going to get your phone back within 5 days. On your cross-claim against Mr. Snyder, I am awarding you $300 on your counterclaim. That is for the work that you did on the farm. However, we are holding that check until he gets his phone back in good condition.
Yes.
Do you understand? Otherwise, you forfeit that money.
Yes, ma'am.
To him. Do you understand?
Yes.
With regard to the co-plaintiff, I find that you did, in fact, take a loan from her, that you initially did it through a third party, but that you ratified the fact that you would make payments on the loan by 2 things. First, by acknowledging it in writing, and second, by making a payment. So I'm awarding you $600 on your claim. Those are the orders of the court. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think they're scam artists.
We came here to try to teach him a lesson that when he enters into contract with somebody, the contract is a contract.
They're greedy. They want money. They need money.
For being greedy, we did a lot to help this guy out.
By doing pretty much anything they ask.
Well, we've decided we're not helping people out anymore. They're on their own.
It's funny because if he didn't send those text messages ratifying the contract that someone else had made on his behalf, he could have gotten away without any responsibility. But when someone makes an agreement on your behalf and you then later either pay for it or admit responsibility that you know you owe it, then you've ratified it and you're held to that, even if you didn't make the initial agreement.
See, and then the right thing happened.
Yeah, it
And
did.
the right thing happened.
It did.
So that's good. That's all
Taking
good.
accountability.
Case number 2045, Vervick versus Bias. All parties, please step forward.
Howard Verbrick is suing his former customers, Angela and Jimmy Bias, for loss of income and the cost of a wolf dog.
Mr. Verbrick, what do you do for a living?
I'm an auto mechanic.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
When did you get into breeding and selling wolf dogs?
Approximately 8 years ago.
Why?
I found the animals fascinating.
Howard Verbrick claims his former customers, Angela and Jimmy Bias, owe for the cost of a wolf dog. Angela and Jimmy are countersuing for harassment.
This is your case. The defendants purchased one of your puppies several years ago.
One, yes.
And a couple of years later, according to you, they were looking for a second dog.
Yes.
Did they contact you?
Yes.
By phone?
Through messaging.
Which you have?
Yes.
Okay. And I will take a look at it at an appropriate time. That they were looking for, I think they were looking for a male, they had had a female.
Correct.
And you were prepared to accommodate that. Did you give them a price for the dog?
Yes.
What was that?
At the time, it was $800.
And after certain discussions with them, was that price ever modified?
Yes, it was.
To what?
Angela thought that the $800 was a little expensive, and
How much had they paid for the first dog?
$500.
Okay.
The reasoning being they helped me sell some.
No, just years before, they had paid $500. You were asking $800 for this male.
It was $800 back then also. Under the circumstances, if they helped me sell animals, then I would give them a deal.
Did they do that for you the first time that
Yes,
they?
ma'am.
So the first time that they bought a puppy from you, they paid $500 and assisted you in finding owners for other puppies.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Second time, you asked for $800.
Yes,
And then did you make the same deal with them?
I did.
How many puppies did you have?
At the time, I had 6.
Did they come over and see the puppies?
No.
Isn't that usual to come over and pick one, unless you only had one male?
Sometimes. I've sold other people animals throughout the United States by pictures only and updated photographs.
On what date did you go and pick up your puppy?
He dropped the puppy off to us on, I think it was March 22nd.
How far does he live from you?
About 40 miles. 30
So you
miles.
could have easily gone to see the litter.
Yes, correct.
So you chose for him to drop the puppy off.
Well, he kind of messaged us, and we had a phone conversation where he stated that he couldn't feed the puppies anymore.
No, that's not what I'm asking you. I know you have a script that you want to tell me about because you have something in your head, but that's not what I asked you. What I asked you was you could have gone to look at the litter of puppies.
Correct.
And picked out which one you wanted.
Correct.
You chose to have him deliver it to you.
Yes.
That was my question. He delivered to you a male puppy. How old was the puppy you delivered to them?
Approximately 9.5 weeks.
I don't know if that's an appropriate time for wolf dog puppies, but 10 weeks is a reasonable time to separate puppies from the litter and their mother. I know that that's not what I went to law school for, but you require a certain amount of nonsense information over the course of a lifetime. Anyway, did they pay you for that dog?
No.
What was the arrangement?
According to Angela, I got 3 different amounts. She was going to give me a $100 deposit and $100 a week, a $150 deposit, then $100 a week, and a $200 deposit and $100 a week. I got nothing.
At what purchase price?
She was thinking the $500 when I was asking the $800.
That's not what I said. Did you ultimately make an arrangement with her for $500 if she helped you find other pet owners? Okay, let's be direct. So you agreed to make them the same deal with this dog as you made with the last.
Correct.
Which is, I'll give you if you help find other potential prospects for the other puppies.
Correct.
So purchase price was $500, and they did find you other people for the puppies.
1, yes.
Well, they found one. It wasn't specified. They found one. And did you place that puppy?
Yes.
This is what your lawsuit is about. You say that she didn't pay you any money, and the people who you placed the other dog with did not finish paying you.
Correct.
Well, they're not responsible for that person. They're not responsible for that person unless you gave them the dog in order to collect the money. Okay. Or did you drop the puppy off?
I dropped the puppy off at their house.
Then that's your problem. Okay. So then what we're dealing is the $500 that you claim they owe you for the dog.
Oh, plus potential loss of income.
Oh, no, yeah. Be ridiculous. Okay, $500. Let me hear your excuse.
I think that the dog has been abused, and I have video proving.
And?
The male won't ever come around.
Just a second. And?
The male does not like males. What he'll do is he will cower at the sight of any male. He's very aggressive when he goes to take food from you.
He was 10.5 weeks old.
We've had him for 8 months now, and we still can't touch him.
But you got him, and he was 9.5 weeks old.
And he's still the same.
You got him when he was 9.5 weeks old. So that's not a reason not to pay for him. You still have him.
He needs proper care, and we don't feel like we should pay anything.
No.
Not with what we have to deal with the dog emotionally and everything else.
Well, unfortunately, the law does not agree with you. You agreed to pay him $500 for a dog. You have the dog, and you have to pay him the $500 for the dog. That's it. It's an easy case. That was your contract. You didn't make a contract with him for a dog that had a nice disposition. Just pay careful attention. If you want a dog that guarantees you practically a nice disposition, buy a golden doodle, not a wolf. Buy a golden doodle.
Gotcha.
Buy a Shih Tzu. You want a big dog? What's another big dog?
Golden Retriever.
Buy a golden retriever. But if you people are odd enough to think that wolf dogs make good pets, not knowing, because I did a little investigation into wolf dogs. Are wolf dogs good pets? Because I get my cases early, and I say, why would any normal person want to own, with 219 breeds or more in this country, in the world of dogs, why would you take a dog that is in part, and you don't know what part, wild wolf? Why would you do that? If your animal is aggressive, go look at its history. Because sometimes they'll grow up to be friendly, nice dogs, like the first one you had.
First one I have is very well with our kids.
You know, this one, I'm going back to my wolf roots. Well, so it's judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
We more or less rescued this dog.
The dog had no issues before.
He cowers down to any side of a male.
That's just a totally false statement.
It's to the point where he's got to get a trainer.
I hope that it is taken care of, and if they don't want the animal, I'd be glad to take it back and care for it.
We're going to work with him. Yeah, we're not going to let him go.
Just another example of people who maybe not, looked into the history of a dog, a wolf dog.
Mm-hmm.
And if you read about it...
I did a little before the case.
Yeah. And it said that a wolf dog is a mix between a wild dog and a domesticated dog. And they list the names of the kinds of dogs that they have been bred with over the course of the years. But in that kind of situation, you don't know how much wolf you're getting.
It's a risk.
You could be getting 8% wolf. You could be getting 50% wolf. You really don't know. I think that there are some jurisdictions where they don't allow them to be sold as domesticated pets.
I think there are a few out there. I just think it's a gamble, and you have to be willing to assume the risk.
I think that we have totally covered wolf dogs.
I think we have.
Nanette Highland is suing her former neighbor, Sahara Carrillo, for vet bills after a dog attack.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2042, Highland versus Carrillo.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tell me your dog's name.
Faith.
How old is Faith?
11.
How long have you had her, Miss Highland?
Since she was 5 weeks old.
When did you live next door to the defendant?
Yeah, it was across the way, but...
It's across?
Yeah, my side of the door faced her side of the door, and there was a grassy knoll in between.
Do you have a photograph of the area?
No, I don't.
Do you? I'd like to see it.
That's mine, and this is where hers would be.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is whose trailer?
Hers.
Miss Carrillo. Is there a street in between this area?
That's where hers would be. Right
Where?
There, in that area where the rocky thing, right after the grass.
Kevin, give this to the defendant.
Maybe
and
this
have her
one's
put
better.
Where the plaintiff's trailer would be.
Okay.
And where hers was.
This is where hers would have been, right here.
Just put plaintiff and show me where yours was.
Mine is right here.
Put it down. Let me see if that makes it clear to me, Kevin. Thank you. Yours is here, plaintiff's is here, and this large grass area is a common area?
Yeah.
It's a common area because you're all the way down here. This is a relatively large space.
It's only like...
I wasn't talking to you.
Sorry.
Okay. And the incident that involved your pet, Miss Highland, happened on October 8th, 2021.
Yeah, it was actually October 9th after going back through the paperwork.
You are no longer in this trailer park.
No, it's an RV park, but yeah.
An RV park. How long were you there?
4 or 5 months. It was like mid to end of May, and this happened in October, and within 3 weeks, I got a place.
And that's your dog? That's the dog that was injured that day?
Yes.
And what kind of a dog do you have?
A Vizsla mix boxer.
A Vizsla?
Vizsla,
So tell me what happened, Miss Highland, on October 9th.
I had gotten up, and I was taking my girls out to go potty.
How many of those do you have?
2. I have a puppy that's almost 2 years old, and then Faith. So I was taking my girls out to go potty, and I'd been looking to make sure that the dog was inside, and I didn't see the dog, and it was on its chain under her trailer, apparently, because when we came outside.
Was your dog on a chain?
On a leash, yeah.
Well, what kind of leash?
That's not right.
Yes.
That's not true.
Well, that's a leash.
Right.
That's a
It
leash.
was
She says
on-
the dog was on a chain.
No.
Do you
Yes,
have?
it was.
I don't have a chain.
Okay.
I don't have a chain. Never had a chain. It's been a leash.
Okay. Were you outside on October 9th at the time of this incident? Were you outside when it started?
Yes. I was outside on top of my stairs.
No, you weren't.
Okay. You're not allowed to answer her. I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Okay, so you're taking your dogs out to potty. Were they on a leash or off leash?
They were on a leash.
But she didn't have
They
them.
go out.
Don't speak.
Okay.
I always have them on a leash whenever they go.
Were they on a leash on October 9th?
Yes.
Okay, so you were taking them out, although you did say, Ms. Highland, that you let them out in your front yard, is what you said, I believe, in your complaint. Let me see. You didn't say I took. You said I let my dogs out in the front yard to go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
when I say let them out, let me clarify, okay? I'm always with my dogs.
I know that you say you were always with them.
Yeah.
That's not my question. My question to you was a simple one. Were they on leash or off leash?
Yeah.
Yes, what?
They were on their leashes.
Be careful. You took them out on leashes in the front grass. And what happened?
When we got down to the bottom of the steps, her dog came out from underneath the trailer and grabbed Faith.
Well, she was on a leash.
Yeah, but she grabbed her. The puppy started to go one way, and I had Faith and dropped her leash, and the puppy was going, like she got out of my hand and was taken off, and her dog was under the trailer, didn't know it because I'd been watching to make sure she had been inside, but didn't see her or the dog out, and she came out of the trailer after the dog grabbed Faith.
In what location did her dog grab Faith?
Right by my trailer, right by my steps, where I had my steps. The chain was long enough for the dog to go past the tree that was right there in between the two properties. And she came out and
Your dogs
started
came right
beating-
up to my dog.
Just
you didn't have a hold of the leash.
You're not.
That's
you're not,
because the
listen to
dog
me, you're
broke
not
free.
Sorry. You want to continue with this case or you want to go?
No, I want to continue.
Then let's understand, we don't talk to each other. Okay, so your version of the events is that her dog was chained under her trailer. You came out with your dogs on leash. The puppy ran away. You dropped her leash. Her dog got your dog and took your dog back to her trailer.
Yeah.
At what point did she come out of the trailer?
After the second time, her dog had picked up Faith, and Faith was screaming, and I was screaming.
Okay. Miss Carrillo, have you ever had an incident with your dog before?
No.
With another dog?
No, I haven't.
That's a lie, because you...
Shh. I want you to think carefully. Have you ever had another incident with your dog and another dog?
No.
How long have you had your dog?
Since she was a puppy, 9 years, since 2013.
And this is the first time she aggressively bit another animal?
Yes.
Okay. You have information to the contrary, Miss Highland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
I'd like you to tell me.
Okay. When I first moved in, she even told me about how her dog had killed a couple other dogs.
Okay. Tell me about that.
She just told me to make sure I was careful with my dogs because her dog has a history of attacking and aggression towards other dogs.
Well, those are conclusions. You first said that her dog killed two dogs.
She did. She told me that her dog was aggressive and that it has a history of killing other dogs and that it had already killed other dogs, and that's why she got kicked out of her last RV park.
I've never lived at another RV park. That's my first RV park ever living at.
Where did you live before?
At my mom's on Ming Avenue.
Did you ever indicate to Miss Highland that she should keep her dogs close to her?
We've never spoken prior to the incident. We never, just maybe a hi. She just had moved in. I never spoke to her.
You want to tell me your version of what happened on the 9th of October?
Yes. I was outside on top of my stairs. I was sweeping. My dog was at the bottom of the stairs. I have her tied up to the stairs. There's a ring where I clip her leash to, so she can't go far. It's just this distance while I was sweeping.
Would you hand that to me, please?
And I can hear her dogs barking while they were inside.
Would you open it up for me? Okay. What you're telling me is that this is what you tied on to under the stairs. Where did you tie it?
This part right here. And then
Where?
I have
Where?
I have to show you how I have it, put it on. Can you give it back?
Let her show me.
I'll clip it onto her harness, and then this would clip onto
harness?
the bottom. My dog's harness.
Are you telling me that your dog was on a 2-foot lead?
Yes, I have her right there when I'm right there. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
My neighbor can vouch to that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Owes for vet bills after Sahara's dog attacked her Chihuahua.
Tell me your name.
My name is Garrett Newhouse.
Mr. Newhouse, how long have you been the defendant's neighbor?
2, 3 years.
Did you see the dog on that gizmo?
Yes.
How far do you live from the defendant?
I'm directly behind Sarah. I'm just right behind her.
Behind hers. So you face the back or the front of her trailer?
The front of my trailer faces the back of her trailer. The door is the same direction towards the yard.
So that you don't see her front door?
Her trailer is angled so that I can see her front door.
Okay. You want to tell me your version of what happened on the 9th? You could sit down.
I was outside on top of my stairs. My dog was at the bottom. On the bottom,
this thing?
On the bottom, I have a hook that I clip her leash to, and she was sunbathing right there. I moved her other places, but while I was there sweeping on top, she was right there. So then I hear her dogs inside that were barking, and then all of a sudden I hear the door open and the dogs just come rushing. Both of her dogs, they had leashes on, but she wasn't holding the leashes. And then my dog grabbed her dog, and I yelled at my dog and whacked her in her head, and she dropped the dog, and then that's when she was on her way.
How did that happen?
What do you mean?
Your dog is on a 2-foot lead. You heard her dogs coming out. You were on top of the stairs. Yes. You saw her dogs, according to you, running, and your dog is on this much. This much?
Yes.
No, actually not that much, because you made a loop.
Yeah, that's the way I do it.
Well, not a moment ago. You made it. You made a loop, so it was on about this much, and on about this much lead, your dog picked up her dog in the mouth. How many times?
Just that one time, and it's this long. You can see where the area is all dirt, where she stays on it and runs around it or misses in the dirt. The grass is still right there where it's nice and green, and the area that she sits in is right there, right in front of my stairs.
And so your dog grabbed her dog in the mouth while close to your trailer.
At my trailer, yeah.
At your trailer. Mm-hmm. And then you hit it on the rear end and she spit out the dog.
Yes.
And then?
And then she ran towards her and she came towards her dog.
This little dog ran towards the plaintiff. The plaintiff ran towards her. And what did you do?
She went to get her dog, and I grabbed my dog.
How did you grab your dog?
I took her off her leash and put her inside. And then I went to see if her dog, is your dog okay? You should have had a hold of her leash.
Now, what did you say to her when you came out?
Is your dog okay?
Okay. Is your dog okay? And what did she say to you?
I can't remember. She was just, your dog, got my dog. I'm like, how come you didn't have the leash? They were on leashes, but she wasn't holding them. And she said because of her legs that she couldn't. And I told her, then you shouldn't have dogs if you can't take care of them.
Just a second, is that what you said to her? You shouldn't have dogs if you can't take care of them?
If you can't they can't be loose. There's a leash law, and she didn't have the leash. She had leashes on them, but she didn't have a hold of them.
I'm just asking you.
Yeah.
That's what you want me to believe you said to her.
That's what I said to her, yeah.
You shouldn't have dogs if you can't take care of them.
That's what I said, yes.
Okay. And did you see her dog injured in any way?
No.
Can I see the records from the vet, please?
Yeah. And here's even photos.
And was there a report made to either the RV? Shh, I didn't finish my question. Was there a report made to the RV park or to the police department?
Yes.
May I see that too as well?
I don't have the RV park or the police report. They could not.
Okay, but not they could not.
Me all over.
The answer is I don't have them.
Yeah, but that's just photos from the injuries.
Now, I'd like to see the vet report, please.
This is the neurology. This is all the other vet stuff.
Don't give me a whole bunch of stuff. I'd like to see the reports and the bills from the vet. And I am correct, sir, you did not see any of this incident. Is that correct?
Only The commotion
just
when
a second.
and she
I'm
smacked
asking
the
you.
dog and
No. Stand up. Let's be very careful about your answer. Am I correct that you didn't see any of this incident?
only after she had smacked the dog and he dropped the dog and they were that little commotion right there where she picked up the dog and went in the house.
You saw it from your trailer, from your RV?
Sitting outside my trailer.
So I want you to tell me exactly what you saw. Now look at me.
Her.
Who's her?
Sarah. Her picking up her dog and going back to her house.
Where was she when she picked up her dog?
No,
I tell you what you're going to do. You're going to show me right here.
Like halfway between her house and mine. Her house.
Put a mark where you saw her, where she picked up her dog. Okay, may I have that, please?
Struck it somewhere. Like a couple of feet away.
So she picked up her dog right near Miss Carrillo's RV.
Correct, yes.
And where was Miss Carrillo?
She took the dog and led it up the stairs, put it in the house, and shut the door, and came back out to see.
And at that time, were you listening to what the two women were saying to each other?
Not really.
Were they yelling at each other, or were they calm?
There was yelling.
So if they were yelling, could you hear what the yelling was?
I didn't know either one of them at that time really that well. I think I went back in the house at that point. Just whatever.
Thank you. You've been most helpful. Okay, you have the report from me from the 9th of October?
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. Okay, so there was one set of stitches that the dog had.
That was her first surgery.
Okay, let me see the second time she was there.
This is the stuff for that one. And that's why.
Well, this was the day afterwards, and when did she go back?
It was June 30th because she was having grand mal seizures, and they had to keep her because they had to start her on phenobarbital because of the eye injuries and the head injuries.
Well, it doesn't really talk about those
that's
injuries.
In the pictures, it shows where her head was punctured.
I see one wound, and I don't see a photograph.
On the picture itself, if you see her head, there's a mark right here on her head by her eye. That was a puncture wound that they had to clean out.
Okay. Now, the defendant says both dogs had a leash on, but that the leashes weren't attached to your hand. Is that correct?
Honestly, I don't remember because most of the time when I'm coming down the steps, I have their leash in hand, and sometimes, like going down the steps, I lose the leash or I drop it and they are at the bottom of the steps waiting for me because they know it takes me a minute to get down the steps.
Okay.
Is responsible for her Chihuahua's vet bills. Sahara claims her dog was tied up and Nanette's dog ran onto her property.
At any time did Faith run across the lawn?
No, she was right by the steps because the tree is right there. It was like in between our spaces isn't even as big as this, in between here and your front of the bench. And literally, she was grabbed right by my steps.
Was any report made by you to any animal control?
I'd called 911 and reported it, and they can't find the report, but it was done over the phone, and I waited for them to come out for a week, and I kept calling them. I did it over the phone with them.
Did you ascertain from the defendant whether her dog was up to date in rabies shots?
I didn't ask any questions afterwards. I was just trying to make sure and find out what was going on with her.
Did anyone from the RV park come and discuss the incident with you?
They just asked me what happened.
Just a second. So the answer is yes. Do you have any sort of documentation of that discussion that they had with you?
There was no documentation.
Do you remember the name of the person that you spoke to?
Yes.
Are you still at the RV park?
Yes.
Did you tell the RV park that there was a witness to this event?
No.
Well, there were two different versions of the event. One says that your dog came and attacked hers, and you say that her Chihuahua came and was aggressive towards your dog. But you have allegedly an independent witness who saw part or most of it, who you brought to court today. I assume that the plaintiff communicated to the RV park that your dog was at fault, correct?
Yes.
And you say your dog was not at fault. Is there any reason why you didn't tell the RV park that there was a witness?
Oh, because I didn't know yet.
When did you find out that he had seen anything of the event?
Maybe like 3 weeks after.
Tell me about that. How did you find out that he had seen any part of it?
Because I was talking to him about what was going on, that she was going to take me to court, and then he said that he had
So now you were talking to your neighbor.
Right.
Which meant that you must have been at least somewhat friendly towards him.
At that time, yes.
At the time of the incident on the 9th of October.
We didn't know each other that well.
But you had lived there for a long time. How long did you live there?
Since July 20.
And how long has he been living there? How long have you been living there?
A long time, 20 years.
Long time, 20 years. So my question is, what prompted you 3 weeks later to have a discussion with him?
Because I started to get to know him by then. I worked. I worked at that time. I worked a lot. You know, so I started to conversate with my neighbor. That's...
Okay. How much were your vet bills?
At this point, it's over $10,000.
Have they been paid?
Most of them.
Okay. I'd like to see the bills, the last bill.
And can I say something about what she said? First of all, she was in there way before I was. She had already been there over a year. And second of all, the thing is she couldn't have said anything 3 weeks after, because it wasn't after until my leg recovered from having to have emergency surgery from falling right after the incident happened that I even decided to file court papers. So the court papers weren't even filed
until when?
Until June.
I didn't say they were filed.
You said 3 weeks after. But anyways, so like all this happened
I see the bills,
back in October. And I literally couldn't get to the courthouse to be able to drive to the courthouse.
How much do you owe the vet?
What I've already paid is over $2,000, or right around $2,000 in cash that I've paid. But to get her MRI, I need to pay $3,000.
There is no nexus that can be drawn between the seizures that she's having now, other than other than the vet saying that it's possible that it can be caused by trauma.
Yeah.
Other than that, that's the only thing I saw there. There was not a full report that said the trauma that she had 6 months before was the basis for these seizures that she's having. Seizures. She's 11 years old.
Seizures right after the attack.
Ms. Highland, you have to understand that you need an expert witness that you don't have to demonstrate that the seizures that your dog is currently having is a direct result of this dog attack.
Right.
Do you understand? Faith is 11 years old, and it's possible. Just a
neurology.
second. It's possible that it comes from that. It's possible it comes from something else. I don't deal in possibilities. All I want to know is what vet bills you paid for October 9th and October 10th.
The actual total was $1,526.62 without her medicine being involved.
Okay, well, that's a reasonable vet bill for those 2 dates. She did have 2 different surgeries. And the medications that you're talking about were also included in that $1,526, other than for the seizures that you want me to draw a connection with I'm not. And nothing more is owed to the vet for those 2 days, October 9th and 10th. Okay. Ms. Carrillo, I have to make a determination as to whether or not I believe the story that her 2 little dogs rushed up to your dog that was being chained to a step on a very, very short lead with you standing right there, and whether or not I believe that you stood there while your dog that was on a very short lead, that has never had any problems with aggression before, picked up her dog twice, because once she had puncture wounds in the stomach and once she had puncture wounds around the head. And I don't believe you. Quite frankly, I don't believe you. Okay. And I think you're responsible for her vet bills. I think you would have indicated.
Didn't she say that she didn't have the leash, that she wasn't sure if she was holding the leash? Her
Absolutely.
dog seemed
I don't answer your questions. If you're standing on your steps sweeping, and your dog is now chained, and you see her dog's running across, then you jump down from the step and you grab your dog. That's what you do. You have a very big dog that you keep on a very short, according to you, chain, and there's a reason for that. So if you're standing with it, this is not a question and answer. You're responsible for our vet bills. I believe her. $1,526. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
So one thing I found interesting about that defendant's testimony was that when you were in your line of questioning about whether or not her dog had ever been in another fight or with any other dog, any interaction, she said no. I thought I remembered when I was reading her answer, she stated that she had a mutual understanding with the plaintiff that when her larger dog was outside, the plaintiff's dogs would be kept inside. Why would you need to have that sort of mutual understanding unless you knew that your larger dog had a propensity for violence towards other dogs?
That's true. I forgot. Now that you mentioned it, I remember that I read about this mutual agreement. I wouldn't think that she was afraid that the Chihuahua would attack her dog.
Probably not.
Are suing their former employer, Christopher Ricks, for unpaid wages and vandalism.
Court come to order. All rise.
Seat, please.
Case 2094, Joyner Hendrickson versus Ricks.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that I'm going to start out with Mr. Joyner. Who is that? That would be you, because we start with you. He came in later to this scenario, is that right?
Right.
So let me try to understand, Mr. Joyner, what it is that you're suing the defendant for, considering what you wrote to me in your complaint. You were looking for a job. Whatever business you had went south, and you didn't have any money.
That's not true.
Well, let's see.
It was said like that, but we did not lose a business.
After losing my jewelry business.
Yes, ma'am. That's not right.
Well, that's what you signed. In your complaint.
Yes.
So I can only go by what you signed in your deposition. That you lost your jewelry business, that's what it says. In any event, you were looking for a job. The defendant has a theater, among other businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
And you sought out the defendant, Mr. Joyner?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me how you sought him out.
I was vending in a coffee shop. I was vending my jewelry. It's not a lost business.
Would you just get on to how you met him?
Definitely. So I was vending there, and I saw at the theater Pride Weekend. So I had called Chris Ricks, said, hey, is it okay if I come up there and vend my jewelry?
Just a second. So you called him. Was his name on the poster? How did you find him?
I just called the theater's number, and he answered.
Okay, so you weren't calling him, you were just calling the number.
Yes, ma'am.
So you asked him, can I come and sell my jewelry at your theater? When was that?
That was Wednesday, June 16th, 2022.
Okay. And you were having some sort of an event?
Yes, ma'am.
Did Mr. Joyner come and set up his jewelry booth?
They did, in fact.
Were they charged for that?
No, I did not. I just simply offered the space. They kind of told me their backstory and that they were having financial troubles, and I was trying to do a good deed for the community.
Okay. So you were not charged for the space?
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And you went up there on what date to sell your jewelry?
We started Thursday night, June 17th, 2022.
When you say we, is that you?
All three of us, yes.
Okay, so did you sell any jewelry?
A little bit.
So not much, not enough for the three of you spending a day on the 17th. And then how did it come about that you sought out a job from Mr. Ricks? Because you did seek a job. On what date did you ask him if there was any work?
Thursday night. Thursday the 16th.
And what were you supposed to do?
Supposed to bartend, open, close. That's not accurate.
I'll get to you.
And
what were you supposed to do?
And run the concession stand. Bartend, close, open, and run the concession stand.
During what hours?
4 p.m. that day till 12 a.m., 1 a.m. that night. Could not really remember.
Okay, and did you do that?
Yes.
And you weren't selling your jewelry at that time?
I was going off and on. So anytime he had called me for a different job, I would take that. Sorry.
So the answer is you were doing both.
Yes, ma'am.
So you were doing your own business and doing whatever task Mr. Ricks asked you to do.
Yes.
That was on the 16th. And did he pay you for that work?
Yes, he ended up paying
And just
us.
a second. And how much did he give you?
Gave us $264 for that weekend.
Not we.
I.
gave me $264 that week.
Did he work that weekend?
Yes, we all three worked that weekend.
Doing what?
Everything.
Well,
we opened.
Mr. Hendrickson is not suing for any wages from him other than for the painting that he did later. I'm asking you, what did you do for him and when, and how much did you get paid?
I did opening, closing duties for him. I ran a bar.
For how many days?
4 days, Your Honor.
4 days.
In the beginning, but I did pick up more stuff whenever he called me for more opportunities. So he would be like, hey, we have jam band tonight. So I would say, okay, I could work.
Okay, so you worked, say, until June 20th, you said, for 4 days, and then you would work after that period of time?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you stop going to the theater for the purposes of doing anything for Mr. Ricks? Month and day?
Oh.
One of the things you're supposed to have, Mr. Joyner, when you come to court, and if you're suing for wages, is you're supposed to have it right here, right in the front of your brain. What date you started, what date you stopped, what hours you worked, what you did. That's what you're supposed to have. Do you understand? Okay. Mr. Ricks, on what date was the last date you saw Mr. Joyner at your theater doing anything?
Saturday, June 25th.
So it would be a fair statement that certain days you saw him between the 16th of June and the 25th of June.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you told me about the 16th that you started working part-time because you were back and forth between your own business and doing something for him, for which actually he gave you free space to sell your jewelry. Now, when you go someplace, you usually pay for space to sell your jewelry, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, I know that because I've had hundreds of cases involving people who rent space in a theater or under a tent or in a yard so that they can sell their jewelry. He gave it to you for nothing.
Yes.
And you're back and forth doing little errands for him on the 16th. Like what? 16th, while you were selling your jewelry. Tell me what you did.
We worked the jam band for him that night.
Not a we. I don't want to hear a we.
I worked the jam band that night. He has like a jazz band that comes in and performs.
And what do you mean you worked?
I worked the concession. I opened, closed, bartended for him. Anything that he was calling me over to do.
That's a little too loosey-goosey for me.
No, I can tell
That's a little too loosey-goosey for me. Okay, let's go. What did he do, if you remember, on the 16th?
On the 16th, 17th, and 18th, that's when they had their jewelry set up. He did not work my concession stand at all. He did not work for me that time at all.
That's not
true.
He started working.
Don't speak. Do not speak. Do you see I asked you questions? He was quiet. Now it's his turn to speak. Now you have to be quiet. You understand?
He worked Sunday, June 19th from 9 to 2, which was 5 hours. That was brunch. He worked June the 22nd. They were late. They arrived at 3:12.
You said they arrived.
Both of them came that day.
On the 20th?
On June the 22nd.
22nd.
Mm-hmm.
Was that the first time that both Mr. Joyner and Mr. Hendrickson came together?
To work for me in a theater capacity, yes.
Okay. That's incredible. And that was June 19th?
No, that was June the 22nd. But actually, I misspoke. I apologize. They both worked June 19th for brunch. They both worked June the 22nd. On June the 24th, he had a text meltdown, and then he came to work and worked 5 to 9. I have their hours exactly.
5 to 9, and that's just Mr. Joyner or both of them?
They both came on June the 25th, Your Honor.
And worked from when to when?
On the 25th, which is Saturday, he worked from 5:20 to 10:30. He passed on the concession opportunity where he could have made more money.
No, but he worked doing what?
He trailed me. I was trying to teach him managerial type cash in, cash out, etc., and the business situation of the theater, because that's what he proposed to me that he was educated to do. And so
you mean managing a theater?
Yeah, just kind of helped me with open, close duties, overseeing that tasks are done by the other employees, etc.
Okay, so it sounds as if he and Mr. Hendrickson worked for a limited number of days.
Correct.
How many days in total?
In the total project, which is painting.
No, not
the
painting.
Theater, just the theater.
In the theater.
Joyner worked 4 days at the theater, and Harland worked 3 days at the theater.
Okay, and how many?
4, I beg your pardon.
4.
Yes, ma'am.
Your last day of work, that was the 25th of June?
Yes, ma'am. At the theater.
I'm talking about only at the theater.
I think he worked 18 hours, just at a quick glance here.
18 hours during the 4 days.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hendrickson, how many hours did he work on? You don't have anything in front of you, Mr. Hendrickson, so I assume you have nothing. No physical evidence, is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
All right, good. How many hours?
Just under 12, actually.
Say 12 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So one worked 18 hours, one worked 12 hours. Do you have any data to indicate that those hours are wrong?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great.
And claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay, how much were you paid, Mr. Joyner? Because part of it is your wages that you're requesting for working in the theater. How much in total did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$264.
That's for the theater work?
Yes, ma'am.
And how much, Mr. Hendrickson, did Mr. Ricks pay you?
$204.
Sarah, do math for me, would you please? 18 into 264 and 12 into 204. Now, on what date, Mr. Joyner, because this is where it gets sort of fuzzy to me. So far, this is what I'm getting, that the three of you were trying to start a business that was marginally successful in selling jewelry. So far, do we agree on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. And as part of selling your jewelry, you approached the defendant, and it was really a cold call. You called a regular number, not Mr. Ricks personally, and told him your story. And he said, well, if you want to come down, I'll give you free space to sell your jewelry. And that was within his theater area.
Yes, ma'am.
So you would say that was very nice of him. And you worked for him, and he showed you the place, he showed you the books, he showed you started to do other things. Now, at some point, this is where I go a little fuzzy with you, Mr. Joyner, and maybe you can help me understand you. So you have someone who's been nothing but nice to you so far. On what date did you file a complaint with Alcohol and Beverage Control?
That was July 5th, 2022.
So let me figure this out. So you worked for him at the theater until June 25th. On July 5th, is that what you told me?
Well, after the 25th of June, so we had kind of like a weird period where we were trying to figure out if we still wanted to finish the apartments for him. And
No apartments. We haven't gotten to the apartments yet. I'm going to get to the apartments because he asked you to paint apartments. You went over there, and that's another part of your lawsuit. Just a second. Sarah Rose?
Yeah.
How much did Mr. Joyner make per hour?
$14.60.
Minimum wage.
And Mr.
It's 11 in
Hendrickson
Arkansas.
would be 17 an hour.
And he made 17 an hour.
Correct, for 12 hours at 200.
But there was no
Those
actual
hours are not correct.
there was no actual documentation. Like we did not have a clock in, clock out. But the 18 hours is not correct, though. We have
Just
no
a second.
data.
Just a second. You have no data.
Right.
He does.
But there's no it's not actual fact. It's not fact.
I don't know whether it's factual. How do I know? You're supposed to keep track.
Yes, ma'am.
You're supposed to keep track.
We're not the business owners.
Just a second. You want
Of
the
the
money.
theater.
Right now, he's paid you more than the minimum wage for being around. I mean, the theater ran for how many years before they worked for you for 6 days?
Been about a year and a half. I bought it during COVID.
Okay, and this was your first time working in a theater.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so you had no fund of information. He wasn't paying you for expertise. He was paying you for those few days, and you were following him around, closing a stand, whatever you were doing, and you were paid more than the minimum wage, which is, I assume, more than you made selling your jewelry for the 3 days you were there.
Yes, ma'am.
Right.
Right.
Okay. I'm still going to wait for this answer, because at some point after you stopped working for him at the theater, and after you had mulled over some information that you thought you had acquired while you were working for him, I want you to do a step-by-step why you contacted the authorities, because he does have an alcohol license, right? I assume if you have an if you contact, don't look at each other. Just look at me. I'm actually the nastiest one here.
Agree.
Well, so alcohol beverage control. So what information, sir, did you give alcohol beverage control that caused the investigation?
Your Honor, he was not the one that called them. I was.
We both called. So what happened during the time that we were working those 4 days, he would serve other people alcohol. He would get on our asses about IDing people, how to sign the papers for ABC, everything. And I made sure to take a picture of the number. I didn't take a picture of the whole document itself.
What are you talking about? What document?
The ABC paper. Whenever we had to sign the paper saying that if we didn't ID someone and the ABC came in and found out about it, we would be fined and we would be held responsible, not Chris. We had to sign those papers.
Okay.
That stuff.
So you signed the papers.
But during that, after we signed that, we noticed Chris was still giving out free alcohol to people, pouring it, wasn't even checking people's IDs. So I called the ABC and I said, I think there's suspicion that he's giving minors alcohol. Because there were people there that were 19 years old that were coming up to us saying, oh, well, yeah, we're 19, but we're cool with Chris and stuff like that in ways. Like they had a way with Chris or whatever, friends with Chris. We just started working there. We don't know the regulars. We don't know what the life is like.
I'm just trying to think of why you would do that for somebody who was, forget whether I believe you or not, forget the loosey-goosey of what you just told me. Maybe he said,
We actually have a recording that he admitted to giving one of our 19-year-old employees alcohol. Because he said...
And? Just tell me, and? I want to know why you called them on July 5th. You were no longer there. Did that have to do with the painting? Was that before or after you started painting?
That was after we started painting.
Of course it was after you started painting. Now, so let's go to the second part of your lawsuit. Second part of your lawsuit involves the work that you both did for him. You have an apartment complex, Mr. Ricks.
Correct.
And that apartment complex contains how many apartments?
20. I bought it as a rehab.
And they,
it was completely vacant. And
at the time that you asked them if they wanted to paint it, it was vacant, all 20 units?
Correct.
Tell me, how did you approach Mr. Ricks, or he you, about this house painting job?
We were trying to get away from all the stuff that we were seeing and hearing at the theater. So we asked if he had other jobs for us, and he said he had apartments that needed to be painted last week, and that if we could get in there and finish them, great.
Okay, now I'm going to come back to what you just told me. You just told me that you saw things at the theater that he served somebody that you know who was 19 alcohol. And that was very distressing to you. So distressing that you said to him, do you have any other work for us?
It wasn't just that
just a second.
Instance.
Just
no,
a
ma'am.
Claim their former employer, Christopher Ricks, owes for unpaid wages and vandalism. Christopher is countersuing for damage to his apartment complex and slander.
Okay. Did he take you over to paint the complex in handcuffs? Did he take you over there in a van? Did you ask him for additional work?
He's the only person really in Hot Springs, Arkansas that we felt like we could relate to and feel comfortable working for.
I asked you a very simple question. Give me a very simple answer. Did you ask him for more work?
Yes.
And did he say, I have an apartment complex that needs painting?
Yes.
And did you agree on a price?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was the name of the last person that you did painting for? House painting.
I did it for my parents when we built our house, but that's...
Very nice. I also painted a room once in my dining room when I was 24 years old. I actually thought I did a pretty good job. I would not hire myself out as a house painter, but because I painted my parents' living room when I was 12. So the answer is you had
no... The reason why he was asking us to paint, because he couldn't find someone else to paint for him, because he wasn't paying people.
I didn't ask no to paint.
Shh.
That's correct.
Just a second. Sir.
I was not asked to paint.
Sir.
No.
Mr. Joyner, you know what your problem is? Your problem is you were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. And then you went, and now I'm speaking. You were dissatisfied with what you saw at his theater. While you were there, working at the theater, you did nothing about it. Zero. Even if it was true, you did nothing about it.
We didn't want to lose our jobs at the time, Your Honor.
You didn't have jobs at the time. You stopped working for him on the 25th of June. You didn't call alcohol until July 5th, you said, so you were no longer working for him in the theater. So it didn't start to bother you, really. June 22nd, June 23rd, June 24th, June 25th, the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, all the way up until July 5th.
The ABC report was not just filed by me, and it wasn't just on July 5th. There was also another instance where it was filed earlier, but that was with them, and there's no evidence about it.
Just a second. You filed July 5th.
Yes, ma'am.
Now you're going to tell me what happened with the painting, because you finished the painting kerfuffle happened in July, is that right?
Right.
And it was after the painting kerfuffle that you called alcohol beverage.
Yes,
after the painting kerfuffle.
Well, it was during. It was during.
What?
It was during, kind of, almost.
You're getting the feeling that
It
I'm
wasn't
not
just
sympathetic.
me that
you're
filed the
getting,
report
you're
with
getting.
ABC.
Well, just a second. You mean one of these other people who was also
Harlan
jobless?
filed.
I don't care.
So we shouldn't have-
Nobody
we
was
shouldn't have
fired.
reported it at all.
No,
So we shouldn't have
no, I'm
reported it?
trying to get to your motive, sir. If it was so abhorrent,
My
if the,
motive?
Hey,
I have no
don't
motive.
speak.
I am
Don't
just
try.
owed
Don't
what
try to
I
speak
worked
over
for.
me. Don't try to speak over me. That
No, I'm trying to
doesn't
fight for what I'm
work.
owed.
So far, you're not owed the thing for the theater. Now we're getting to the painting. I'm just trying to see what motivates somebody. And I'm not excusing the fact that if Mr. Ricks serves alcohol to minors, that's not a good thing to do. He can get into real difficulty. They conducted an investigation as a result of the calls. All I have to ask you is this. Do you still have your liquor license?
Absolutely.
Okay. Was it ever revoked?
No. And I've had multiple in the state of Arkansas.
So you're not owed any money for the theater. Now we're going to get to the paint. When did you start painting in the complex? Date.
June 27th, 2022.
6/27. Did you paint there 6/28?
Yes.
Did you paint there alone or with Mr. Hendrickson?
Mr. Hendrickson.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint on June 29th?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you paint after June 29th?
No, Your Honor.
So you painted there for 3 days. Is that correct?
Actually, 5 days that I was there. I started on the 23rd.
I was there for 3.
And did you work the 23rd?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th.
Just
7 days.
23rd, 24th, 25th, 26th, 27th, 28th. So you worked weekends.
Yes.
It's not.
Did you work weekends?
I worked the 23rd through the 29th, 7 days.
Well, 7 days. Just a second. Pay attention to me. 7 days includes a weekend,
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday. Did you work
Yes.
Saturday and Sunday?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Not Sunday.
I'm going to go back to you. Did you work Saturday and Sunday?
I worked the morning of Sunday, and I left 3 hours
All right.
after getting there.
Okay, so forget Sunday. Now, how many hours did you work on each of those days, Mr. Hendrickson?
I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
Let me understand what you just said to me. You don't know how many hours in each day, but you calculated them together and came up to 52 hours. Would you repeat what he said to me? Because it's mind-boggling to me.
He said, I do not remember the hours for the days, but I calculated all the hours together, and it was 52.
How do you calculate all the hours? Let me ask my question, sir. How do you calculate up to 52 when you don't remember how many hours you worked each day?
Looking at the text messages and seeing when I got there and when I left, because I texted him when I opened the doors and when I locked up.
Well, then you know how many hours you worked.
Technically.
What?
Technically, yes.
What do you mean technically yes?
Because they're not completely correct. I didn't text him right when I got there, and I didn't text him right when I was leaving. I texted him when I got home or after I had started.
Okay.
Is suing her client, Danny Velasquez, for dance class fees.
Court coming to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2086, Renner versus Velasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Renner, you run a dance studio.
I do.
How long have you had it?
30 years.
And what age children do you teach?
We have a Mommy and Me class, which starts at 18 months, and our oldest student is 19 years old.
And Miss Velasquez has a daughter. And she was at your school during what period of time?
She started in June of 2020, and she quit in June of this year.
Your lawsuit is simple. You claim that Miss Velasquez owes you money for her daughter's dance lessons.
Yes.
The defendant actually disavows owing you any money. She said that you actually behaved in a mean-spirited way in not allowing her daughter to finish her recital. So I'm trying to think back to my days when I was 6 and 7. And if I remember correctly, the name of the school that I went to, and I know that this is not something that everybody is breathless to hear about, but I haven't had one of these cases. And I was thinking back to Miss Nottage, who had a dancing school in her home on Parkside Avenue in Brooklyn. And I do remember that you took classes I took toe, tap, ballet, and acrobatics, which was not my strong suit, any of them. None of them were my strong suit. Father always said that I should sue the city because they built the sidewalk too close to my behind because my legs are short. So being a ballerina was really not physically possible for me, but in my mind, I thought I was a ballerina. Anyway, as do most little girls, I assume. So you worked during the year, and at the end of the year of your dance class, I remember you gave a recital. Everybody got all excited and dressed for the recital. I assume that's what happens in your class.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's a yes.
Yes.
Did you have a contract with Miss Velasquez?
I have a registration form which acknowledges receipt of studio policies.
Well, policies is not a contract, but I'll take a look at it anyway. The question is, do you have a signed contract with her?
No.
Okay. May I take a look at that? According to these policies, which are not a written contract because she has not signed this document in particular, you say you acknowledge receipt of it. What it mostly is to tell them what the instructions are and give you a release of liability. It does indicate here that full tuition is due on the first class of each month. And how much was the tuition for Miss Velasquez's daughter?
From January through June, it was $170 a month. And then from September through December, it was $165 a month.
Okay, so around $170 a month. And I assume she was current on her tuition in 2020. And in 2020, did Miss Velasquez make her payments on the first of each month?
Well, I can't say exactly on the first, but yes, it was always current, which is why.
That's not what I asked you. Was it made pursuant to your policies here on the first of each month?
I don't know. I don't remember specifically.
What about in 2021? Were her payments made on the first of each month?
No.
When did she stop making payments in 2021 on the first of each month?
Well, I have emailed spreadsheets here, and so starting in December, she asked me if she could make small payments, increments throughout the month because she was a single mother and wasn't able to make the full payment on the first.
So you said yes, that she could make payments incrementally. Mm-hmm. And do you have that same arrangement with some other parents?
I do.
How many other parents do you have that arrangement with?
Well, anybody who asks in...
How many? You run the school.
5.
How many students do you have?
5.
Okay. So you have that arrangement with this mother plus 5? Mm-hmm. And that is inconsistent with your policies.
Yes.
That would be a yes. Now, tell me what happened, Miss Velasquez, that caused you to fall behind in your payments. You acknowledge you fell behind in your payments.
Yes, I do.
When did you fall behind in your payments?
I asked Ms. Renner if I could start making payments in September of 2021, which I have written as well, if you would like to see that. And in October, I didn't pay anything because my father passed away. And I explained that to her, and then I made up for it in November through payments, and I just continued to pay as I could with being a single mom.
Well, that's not a reason to not pay her, being a single mom, as you could. You understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I'm sure you're doing the best you can. You're trying to give your little girl, how old is she?
9.
9. Trying to give her the best possible experience. It's all wonderful, but this is her business. And if you owe her money, then you owe her money. Mm-hmm. Since the policies are honored and sometimes not, there was one part of your policy, even though that this is a contract that I actually find ridiculous, because in your lawsuit, you claim you're owed $946 and $7,169.76 interest. That's not happening. And it's not happening. You gave me an easy out because you really don't enforce your own policies.
I try to be kind to people who
and I
need
try
help.
to be kind too. Being kind is not suing somebody for $900 and suing them for $9,000. That's not being kind, because there's no question that you agree that you owe her some money.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's an unconscionable. Even if there was a contract for it, I would probably find it an unconscionable piece for somebody who owes you less than $1,000 and you want $7,200 because it includes interest. I find that ridiculous. How many students were in Miss Velasquez's class?
Approximately 18.
When you say approximately 18, the number varied based on what?
Well, my memory, it was either 18 or 19 children. I don't remember how many. That's a very large class.
Are you the sole teacher?
Well, I do the ballet, and I have a teacher who teaches the jazz class.
Your daughter takes ballet or jazz, or both?
Yeah.
Your daughter stopped going to school when?
May 17th.
Tell me the circumstances.
That was when I got a ledger from the studio that said that I owed $965. And my math was thinking I was closer to like 360. So I kept messaging and asking where the confusion was. And I didn't get a response until May 27th.
That said what?
That said I owed $1,300. And this was from Miss Jenny.
And that was for late fees? What was it for?
The dance team and the costumes for the recital that was coming up.
Okay. Well, do you have a ledger? And I'd like to see your ledger. So far, I have, according to you, what you owe, because you did a breakdown of what you owe. It is your claim that you owe $846, correct?
Yep.
And she says you owe $946. That's without the interest and the late fees.
Yeah.
So you are actually, based upon raw numbers, $100 apart.
I have an email from her stating that she owes $947.
I'd like to see it, please.
And later today, claims her client, Danny Velasquez, owes for dance class fees.
Okay, so in this email, you acknowledge owing $586 and then $360 for team. What is team?
They did like competition teams that I allowed my daughter to be on. Before I let her audition, I made sure that Jenny was okay with my payments, and I sent it all in.
No, I'm just reading the email, which seems to acknowledge that you owed her $947.
Yeah, so the team portion was $361, which is what I thought was owed.
No, you said team, and your regular tuition said that I owed $1,301 when I only owed $586. So $586 and $361 and $947.
You're correct. I just couldn't get any accurate numbers.
I'm taking your numbers that you acknowledge.
Right. First she said it was $1,647 I owed, then she said $1,400.
Right now I have, she says amount owed $946. You said it was $947. So let's say it's $947. And that's without late fees and without interest. So you would consider that a fair number.
Yeah.
And Ms. Rayner, you would consider that a fair number?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I think it was fair. I just wish that my daughter would have been able to dance.
Money was due to me, and she was not paying.
I had to go in and be the one that broke her heart.
She argued with every statement we sent her.
We've already found a new studio, and it's amazing.
Pay your bills.
It's a big blessing in disguise that my daughter's not with Jenny anymore.
I'm sure you were a great dancer back in your day. Maybe ballet now isn't for you, but I'm sure you were the cutest one in the class. But I do think it was unconscionable for the owner of the dance studio to agree that the mother only owed around $900, and she wanted to have this court pay her almost $9,000 in late fees and interest. I mean, I think it's just unconscionable.
It was a good shot. You know, usually when you do a contract, a formal contract, contracts usually say if any part of this contract is found to be either unconscionable or illegal, the remainder of the contract remains in full force and effect. Usually you have something that says that. Well, this was just an acceptance of the school policy, but the school policy clearly was flexible.
It was, and as soon as she said that, I was hoping that she would have drawn up for those 5 or 6 parents that were on a different payment plan. I would have hoped that she, as a business owner, would have drawn up something mimicking a contract with them to show what their agreement was.
Memorialize that agreement.
Because as you said, well, if you're flexible on this point and that point, why are you not flexible on the interest that you
exactly, which sounded unconscionable.
It did.
Anyway, I really, Sarah, remember those dance classes and crossing Parkside Avenue to go to Miss Nottage's studio. The thing that I remember most about it was the acrobatics class. I swear they had something strung up that looked like a torture chamber. It was strung up from the ceilings and you were put in a harness. You started from one end of the room, and when you got to the minute, she pulled you up on a pulley and you were supposed to do a somersault. And I remember I couldn't get off the ground. My little chubby legs were
flailing,
and I couldn't get my behind over the rest of my body.
Listen, I'm not a dancer either.
And
So.
then I started thinking about law school.
Yeah, I think that's a good career path.
Right.
Sarah Kwan is suing dog walker Danielle Lancaster for damages resulting from a dog attack.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case number 2002, Quam versus Lancaster.
Mr. Kwan, succinctly, your case involves an attack of a dog that was being walked by Miss Lancaster. She was a dog walker. She didn't own the dog.
Correct.
Dog got away from her, and according to you, attacked your dog, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $10,000.
Correct.
You were neither hospitalized, correct?
I was not
You
hospitalized.
were neither hospitalized, and your dog was not hospitalized.
Correct.
I assume that you have some medical evidence as a result of this incident to show me that you suffered from a dog bite.
Yes.
Okay. And the dog bite was from the dog that was being walked by Miss Lancaster.
Walked is, I'm not sure if I would use the term.
She's a dog walker.
Yes,
She's
but
a
it was
dog
off
walker.
leash.
She's not the owner of the dog.
Correct.
The incident happened what date and time?
December 22nd, 2021 at approximately 1:30 p.m.
And you were walking your dog, which is what breed?
A 20-pound wiener dog mix.
And you were a dog walker. How long had you been in charge of walking this dog?
At that point, it was about a week.
What kind of dog was it?
I believe it was a boxer mix. Not 100% sure.
How old?
2, 3 years old, give or take.
Who are the owners of the dog?
The owners, I can't remember their name. One of Mike, but I don't remember their last names. But
you remember the owners' names?
Yes.
And it would be fair to say that you knew their names because you tried to sue them.
I contacted them, yes, but did not sue them.
And you contacted them because they're the owners of the dog and they have a house. Mm-hmm. Is not an answer.
Yes.
And a house usually has homeowners insurance.
Correct.
Correct? And after contacting them, and it's their dog, so they are ultimately responsible for their dog, you opted not to seek compensation for your alleged injuries and this attack, but to sue the dog walker.
Correct.
Just for my own information, Mr. Kwan, do you want to tell me why you did that?
Yeah. So per California strict liability law, anybody who takes physical ownership or responsibility for a dog is also responsible for any sort of attacks or damages it causes while they are responsible for that dog. Regardless
okay, just a second. So what you're saying is in the state of California, if you are walking a dog, and she says she was walking this dog for a week, how many times a day, every day?
2 times a day.
Twice a day. And she had this job for a week. That under all circumstances, she is responsible for any injury that the dog does. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
And what code is that?
I have a statute over here.
Just tell me the statute.
Per California dog bite law. I don't have the number, but I can bring it up to the,
Would you bring it up?
the court.
It's California Civil Code 3342.
Do you have it?
I could pull it up. I have my notes.
Could you pull it up for me? And I'll come back to you in a second, Sarah. I'm just curious about it. Okay, now let's tell me about the incident, sir.
Sure. So at the time that I described earlier, I was walking my 20-pound wiener dog mix while my mother walked my infant son, who was 3 months at the time, in a stroller.
Care.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that I don't care about him and I don't care about your mother, but they have nothing to do with this case.
Well, they do have something to do with this case because when we turned onto the block, I turned and I saw an off-leash dog roughly 3 times the size of mine. And I saw the defendant, Miss Lancaster. She gave no warning that the dog was off leash. And at that point, I later learned that the dog...
No, don't tell me. Just tell me what happened, sir.
Okay.
You saw Miss Lancaster, and she was walking this dog off leash.
Correct.
And?
She gave no indication?
No. Not that she gave me no indication. Okay. She was walking this dog off leash.
Correct.
So you saw the dog off leash.
Yes.
Okay.
And
about how far were you from her when you saw the dog off leash?
Across the street, so roughly 40 feet.
Okay, and?
The dog charged across the street.
Okay, the dog ran across the street.
Yes, and started aggressively biting, lunging, and barking at my dog.
Okay, so at that point, the dog ran across the street and is in an aggressive stance barking at your dog.
Correct.
Hadn't touched your dog.
Correct.
Okay, what happened next?
It then diverted its attention towards my infant son in a stroller and my mother and started jumping on the stroller.
Did the dog, in fact, jump on the stroller.
Yes.
And?
And my response was to try to divert the attention.
What did you do? The dog jumped on the stroller.
Yes.
Didn't hurt your son, didn't hurt your mother.
Yes. So I got the attention of the dog again.
How did you do that?
By picking up my dog, who was on leash.
Well, that doesn't necessarily get attention of the dog. You say, hey, hey, hey.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
But you didn't say that. You just picked up your dog.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Probably exclaimed in order to get the attention of the dog.
You told me what you did. You picked up your dog and
started running across the street.
Started running across the street in the direction of where the dog had come from?
Correct.
And at that time, the dog was on the other side of the street.
Yes.
So let me understand this. You pick up your dog. Your mother is standing behind you in the stroller with your son. You leave your mother, your son on one side of the street, and you grab your wiener dog mix and run across the street.
Correct. This was after I got the attention of the dog, by the way.
Okay. So now you got the attention of the dog.
Yes.
Ran across the street, so you were trying to divert the dog's attention, and the dog followed you.
Yes, it chased me.
Good. And you were running in her direction?
No. The Miss Lancaster had crossed the street at that point to where we were originally walking.
She was on your side of the street. You were going back to where you had initially seen her.
Correct.
Okay, so she had followed her dog across the street.
Yes.
Was she saying anything?
We made repeated pleas to ask for her to control the situation.
She ran across the street because all this happened within seconds.
Yes.
She ran across the street. Was she saying anything to the dog?
She was yelling, "I'm so sorry, and I can't do anything."
Okay, is that what you were yelling?
I think I was yelling, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do," because I was in an extreme state of panic. I was probably having a panic attack.
I'm so sorry, I don't know what to do. Okay. And
after I ran across the street, when the dog chased me, I fell down. The dog ended up biting me on my left arm.
Okay. And I'd like to see whatever medical report you have from the bite on your left arm.
So the doctor said that...
No, don't tell me what the doctor said.
I haven't...
Could I see?
I have a picture.
May I see
Absolutely.
A medical... Did you understand my words? I said, may I see a medical report
I do not
from
have
a
a medical
doctor?
report.
So you didn't go to the doctor? The question is, did you go to the doctor, Mr.
I did
Kwan?
a virtual doctor's visit because this was during the height of the pandemic.
And what was the name of the doctor with whom you had a virtual visit?
I do not remember.
Should remember. You're suing for $10,000. You should have all that information. Because if you have a virtual medical visit, Mr. Kwan, there is a record of that. Doctor keeps a record of that. Do you understand?
Correct.
Okay. So now you're down, and this happened, according to you, on December 22nd. Did you get the dog's information?
I did.
On December 22nd?
Yes.
When did you speak to the owners of the dog?
I spoke to the owners actually that day because I wanted to get the rabies vaccination paperwork.
Did you get the rabies vaccination paperwork?
Yes.
On the 22nd?
Yes.
Now I'll see your photograph, sir.
I have that statute whenever you're ready.
I got it. Timing is everything. Okay, so the knee injury is when you fell.
Correct.
And the arm is a combination scratch and maybe tooth mark.
Yes, there are tooth marks on there, but not punctured.
Well, I don't know. This long thing is not a tooth mark. So just one other question, Mr. Kwan. When you told the owners about this on the 22nd, when was the next time you contacted them? First, you wanted to find out whether or not the dog had received rabies shots. You were satisfied that it did, that you didn't have to see a doctor other than a virtual visit with a doctor whose name you don't remember. When did you decide not to sue the owners of the dog, who are homeowners, and who have homeowners insurance?
Yep. I wrote the owners of the dog a demand letter, and that is when I contacted them back, probably about 2 months after the incident.
Okay, so you wrote them a demand letter.
Correct.
And did they respond to your demand letter?
Yes.
Do you have copies of those letters?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see copies of your letter and their response.
That's the demand letter that I
just want to see copies of your letter and their response. Are they both here?
They did. They responded by calling me on the phone, not with a formal written statement.
Really?
Claims dog walker Danielle Lancaster owes for injuries resulting from a dog attack.
Okay. Well, you say the dog's a pit bull. The dog was a pit bull?
I believe so.
Dog a pit bull?
I asked after the incident. I did ask as well if it was a pit bull. They said no, it's a boxer mix.
You have a video of the incident. You have a video. Somebody
Yes.
has a video.
Yeah.
Correct.
Someone's Ring camera.
Okay. I'm going to allow you to tell me what the owner said in the conversation that they had with you. I'm not accepting it for the truth of the statement, only that you had a conversation with them, which is why you brought this action against Miss Lancaster today.
Correct.
So they decided, we're not going to put this in writing. We're going to call Mr. Kwan.
Correct.
And what did they tell you?
They were very amicable about the situation, and we're trying to solve the situation to make me whole.
Being amicable is subjective. I want you to tell me what you said to them and what they said to you.
What they said to me was that they would look into their homeowner's insurance policy in order to compensate me. Through a series of conversations, I decided that my grievance was not towards them because they were not exhibiting negligence in this situation.
Oh, no, I don't believe that, Mr. Kwan. Be very careful about what you say to me, sir. As between homeowners who have insurance and this young woman who has to walk dogs for a living, if I was somebody interested in $17,000, I wouldn't sue her. I would sue somebody who had, Kathy Bates said in one of my favorite movies, I'm older and I have more insurance. So that answer that you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John. The reason you decided not to proceed against the dog's owners is what?
The reason why I proceeded not to go against the dog's owners is because I have because some things are more important than money. And in this situation, I have more of an issue with the dog walker and her behavior during this situation rather than being compensated.
Well, let me suggest this to you, Mr. Kwan. There is no question that if Miss Lancaster was walking this dog and the dog was off leash, she was negligent. There's also no question in my mind that the extent of your damages is excessive. Very excessive. So.
But we're only counting physical damages.
Just a second. What I'm telling you is the amount of your damages is excessive. And if you wanted anywhere near that money, you could have sued both people. You could have sued the owner of the dog, as not only did they have the dog that attacked you, but they have, as Kathy Bates would say, insurance. And you would join the defendant as a party to that action. You would say you're all responsible. You own the dog, which you say was a pit bull, which you say was a pit bull, who just mauled and killed somebody in New York last week. An owner. You didn't do that. So I'm not getting all of this kumbaya business that the person responsible. Do you understand?
Yeah,
I'm just not buying it, Mr. Kwan. We understand each other?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. For somebody who has no medical, you had injuries, and you have to be compensated. You had no good excuse for walking the dog off leash.
I wasn't walking him off leash. When I was in the house happened, I had a key on the other side of the door. When I reached for that key, he scooted as hard as I could between my legs and got out. It wasn't that I was walking him and just decided to take him off the leash.
So you were negligent in letting the dog out?
Unfortunately, yeah. Yes.
But the dog had also been out for an hour at the time of the incident.
Yeah, because when I was trying to get him back in, but many attempts, he was very hard to get in, and at that point I was already having a panic attack, very emotional.
No. Okay. Now, Miss Lancaster, let's get it together. Let's get it together. Mr. Kwan says that the dog was out for a period of time, and you weren't chasing the dog when he first saw you. You were in a walking mode. So the dog may have initially gotten out. Miss Lancaster, don't. You know, I'm an ecumenical abuser. Were you out with the dog for a period of time?
Yes.
Did you have a leash in your hand?
I think
is not an answer. Did you have a leash in your hand?
No.
How long were you out with the dog?
Probably around an hour at that point.
Okay.
I was trying to get him back in, and twice I did have him by the collar, and he wasn't having it.
You didn't have him by the collar when he ran across the street?
No, but before then I did.
I don't care what happened before then.
Okay.
Before then, I was 21 years old, and I looked great in a bikini. Now, not so much. All right, Mr. Kwan, this letter was written to Miss Lancaster.
Correct.
I asked you for the letter that you wrote to the owners of the dog.
I do not have that with me right now.
Could we key up this video that I understand we have?
can see my mother and infant son fleeing.
I am so sorry.
Call the person now. He bit me.
I know I will because he bit me too. I know.
Just grab him by the neck.
I can't. He bit me twice on my hand already. I don't know what to do. It's been an hour. I seriously don't know what to do. He bit me twice already. And I tried to get him on the leash and he bit me twice. I don't know what to do. I am so sorry. I am so sorry.
Can I see the beginning of that and see if you can freeze frame on the dog, please? By the way, you do have a leash in your hand.
Yeah, I just realized. Yeah, I do have the leash actually. So
I'm going to walk over to the monitor.
So although the statute uses the word owner, there's vicarious liability if someone else assumed responsibility of the dog, even though the statute is clear, it only lists the word owner. But in California, they could be held liable through vicarious liability, a walker.
A walker.
That assumed responsibility for the animal.
Okay.
Lancaster owes for damages after he was attacked by the dog Danielle was walking.
Okay, so, Miss Lancaster, it does appear to me that you were sort of overwhelmed by this dog.
Yes.
But
very much.
Bottom line is that Mr. Kwan was injured and frightened, not seriously injured, but seriously enough that if it were me, I would be furious as a result of your negligence. And he neither suffered serious physical injury, certainly not serious enough for him not to go to work for a week. I don't know what kind of work you do, but not serious enough unless you, I don't know, unless you model Bermuda shorts. You don't model Bermuda shorts, do you, Mr. Kwan?
Just in my spare time.
Of course not. And you had no medical bills because you didn't see a doctor. But you were attacked. And I actually don't know why you didn't sue the owners of this dog, which looks scarcely like any boxer I've ever seen. And it is possible in California that certain dogs are not insurable. I don't know the answer to that question. It will not insure you in a homeowner's policy if you have a certain kind of dog. Are you familiar with that, sir?
Yes.
What are you familiar with? You're very familiar with statutes with regard to insurance. Can you be denied insurance or have to pay an excess premium if you have a dog that is either a pit bull or a pit bull mix?
I believe so.
You believe so. And would it be a fair statement, sir, that their homeowners either covered their dog or didn't?
They were looking into it, and they had renter's insurance that I believe covered it.
That you believe covered it? Oh, very foolish of you not to go against them. Okay. If you accept responsibility for a dog, you're supposed to be smart enough to look at a dog and say, you know what, why would you ask what kind of dog this is? Now, you let the dog out, and the dog was out with you for an hour.
Yes, yeah.
And during that time, you were walking around the neighborhood, and you had sufficient opportunity. You were walking around the neighborhood.
I wouldn't say walking. I was clearly trying to get the dog back in, and twice I did have him by the collar, and that's what I said in the video. I had him by the collar, and then both times he turned to nip at me on my wrist, so which is why I let go, because I didn't want to get bit.
I know, you said it.
So I was trying to have him follow me, which is what the owners told me to do. I had treats in my hand.
So you called the owners?
Yes, I did call the...
You said you called the owners, and you told the owners what was going on?
Yes, I did. They knew what was going on.
I would have sued the owners. Mr. Kwan, I would have absolutely sued the owners, unless they didn't have insurance that covered the dog, which is a problem for them if they had renter's insurance. In any event, Miss Lancaster, you assumed responsibility of this dog, and based upon your own negligence, forget about the dog's breed, forget about these other people. As a result of your negligence, he was injured, and you have to compensate him for that. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000. We're finished.
Court is adjourned.
I don't think he even got bit.
The doctor said that most of my injuries were emotional, but I did receive a bite from the dog onto my arm, but not a puncture wound.
I think he just, wanted some extra cash from me because that was probably an easier target.
Even though I didn't have any physical injuries, who knows how long my night terrors will last for.
I was literally having the whole panic attack, which is why, I had the reaction I did.
Yeah, I totally understand that, but the dog was off leash for an hour. She could have called the police or animal control during that time.
Don't open the door even in the slightest to a dog. Just wait till, they're away and gone.
Mostly my MO is getting back at those that I have grievances against.
Let's not even get started with dog breed, because I think the world knows where I live in that street. And 10 days ago, a woman who was watching a pit bull for one of her children, 64-year-old woman, her husband came home from work and found the dog eating her in the backyard. Sadly, she died. And there are certain breeds that are more dangerous than others. People have to recognize that. And if you choose to get a dog that is potentially more dangerous, you know, and I know that there are pit bull lovers out there and say, mine is the sweetest, mine is the loveliest, but then you have to accept responsibility if there's an issue. And clearly this dog was an issue because I believe this young woman. Didn't you believe her?
I believed her, and I think that dog walkers should also be cautious of what animals they're choosing to walk, because she could be held vicariously liable. So you might want to stick to 5-pound chihuahuas from now on, maybe.
Right. I mean, she was visibly very
Distressed.
upset. Visibly, and she said on the video, he bit me twice on the hand because she tried to get a hold of him. But she was still out with the dog for an hour. But he was, in fact, injured. And whether he went to the hospital or not, that's pretty traumatic.
Yeah, I don't think you can level it down to actual damages from a bill, but there's some component of punitive damages as well for the pain and suffering and trauma from an event like that.
That's true. But forget falling down and being attacked by a dog. Our family would feel as if, you know, you've got a splinter in your hand as a result of somebody's negligence, or a nail that went into your foot as a result of somebody being careless. It's very frightening. Anyway, people have to use their noodle.